Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Charlie. Doreen, I'm gonna pick up the flag if you want to do the flag here.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
to the flag of the United States of
of
America
and to
and to the republic
for
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. Now, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have beer board minutes from January the 25th. Has everyone had the opportunity to read these? I think you had them ahead of time.
We have what?
It's a beer board meeting. It's the beer board meeting, Zoom meeting, which was held on January the 25th. Is there any changes or corrections to these? If not, do I have a motion to accept these minutes?
I'll make a
I'll make
motion to approve.
Sorry.
Okay. We have a motion from Alvin.
Yeah, if somebody else didn't do it, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll second it then, just so I can be involved.
Second. Okay, second from Nate. We're going to do a roll call vote. Nate,
Yes.
Doreen,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Alvin?
And Mayor, record your vote.
I will. Alvin? Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Then the next meeting will be the PH. Let me look and see what we got here to make sure I'm doing that properly and correctly. Was a public hearing. And that was on January the 25th, part 2. Okay.
Or was it a special called meeting?
Hold on.
I'm not seeing.
PS, that's what I'm looking at. Deb, was that a special call meeting or was it a public hearing? It was a special call on February the 11th. And then we have the planning, and we have the council meetings on January the 25th. So we have 4 different sets of meetings here. One we've approved. What's PH, Debbie? Public hearing? January the 25th. Council meeting, January the 25th. And then a special call meeting on February the 11th. So there's 3 sets of minutes that's been put together here. Council, for you to, I think you've all reviewed those.
Yes.
Does anyone have any changes or corrections to either set of these minutes?
Do them one at a time, Mayor.
Yes, sir. So we're going to go back to the public hearing on January the 25th. Zoom meeting. Does anyone have any corrections to these minutes or additions?
Do not.
Okay, roll call vote then. Nate?
Well, it needs to be a motion.
Oh.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written for the January 25th City Council public hearing regarding the ordinance 2-21. Just because I'm looking at it. How's that?
Second.
Okay, so all right, roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen? Doreen?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, the next set will be the city council meeting on January the 25th.
I have no corrections.
Does anyone else have any corrections? Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of January 25th, City Council.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jessica,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Doreen,
Yes.
yes, for myself. And then the final set of meetings is a special call meeting on February the 11th. You have those in your packet. Do you have any corrections or revisions or additions to those?
Oh.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes for the special call meeting on February the 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes February the 11th.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not, roll call vote. Nate,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, that's all our minutes. All right, next, we have, well, there's something, yeah, let's go ahead and do that because we're gonna change some of the stuff on here. We're gonna get farther down. The next we have is committee reports. Police Department, Jack, are you here? Jack? Okay, Jack's here somewhere, I think. Deb, could you text and see where Jack's at, please? And then Fire Department, do we have a report from them, Deb?
There's Jack.
Okay, Jack's here now. Jack?
Unmute him.
He's muted.
Can you
isn't he?
hear me?
Yeah.
There you go, man. You're ready.
Okay. We have had 4 theft larceny, that's 4 arrests. We've had 1 drug-related arrest. We had 6 accidents, which that was due to the weather. Didn't have any fatalities. And 18 citations. We have issued 5 city ordinance citations as well.
How is everything going, Jack, with the weather and everything? How are you guys doing?
It's going fine. It was a little monotonous there for a little while, but we just have to deal with it.
Council, do y'all have any other questions for Jack?
Jack, when you said you issued 5 city ordinances, is that
Yes.
like the codes?
Yes, it is, Doreen.
Okay, is that just you doing that or is it the whole department? What is it?
The whole department can issue a city ordinance citation. I know myself and Mike Kilgore have issued those 5.
Okay, all right.
And those are, we found them or brought to your attention, correct, Jack?
Right.
Can you tell me what they're for?
They are for uncleanliness of, like, say, your yard, broken down vehicles, things of that nature.
I know I drove down Keene Street and
Well, you'll have to say that again, Doreen.
I drove down Keene Street and Winston Avenue
Yes.
and North Bluff Drive.
Uh-huh.
Seen some, so I may need to get with you on some of those too.
Okay.
Jack, what is the process now that you're doing that? I know you and Earl had talked about that several weeks ago to make sure we know the process. Do they come in and file a complaint if it's somebody that's not brought it up at a meeting or it's been brought to your attention through Earl or one of the council members?
Yes, if it's brought up, if we get a complaint, we go to that person and I'll speak with them and see if I can have something done verbally, if we can address it verbally and fix the situation. If not, then we issue a citation.
What I'm saying though, would a person come up to town hall and fill out a form? Is that how
Yes.
it's done, or send it to you?
If they wanna fill out a form and they can, that way they can remain anonymous or, so that way if they feel like it may, cause problems, then they can do it that way, or they can come to the police department.
Okay. That's
Or
what I was
call.
getting at. Alvin, do you have anything for Jack?
No. Good job, man. Doing good.
Thank you.
Jessica, did you have anything?
No questions.
Nate, do you have anything else? Doreen?
No, I'm good.
One of the things that did happen, Jack, didn't you say that Officer Burnett was also deployed again?
Yes, he has been deployed. He is in Chattanooga currently. He is there for COVID, the COVID, where they're giving out shots for control if anything breaks out.
Okay. And you said he's probably gonna be deployed right now until the end of March, is that correct?
Yes, his orders are until March 31st.
Okay. All right, so you're just covering that we talked about today with the officers and overtime.
Right. Yeah, we have officers covering that with overtime.
Okay. All right. All right. Does anyone else have anything else for the chief?
Thanks for doing the traffic control. My kids have appreciated it.
Oh yeah. I see them every morning.
So thank you, chief. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The fire department is in training tonight. Did we get a report emailed to us, Tim? And we get a copy of it, and I'll read it in a moment. 911, is Heather on here tonight?
Yes.
Heather?
She may need to get unmuted.
Okay, whoever's unmuting, we're looking for Heather Falls. Right there she is.
Do I need to mute mine?
Yeah, if you don't mind, please.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine. How about you?
Good. Do you have your report, ma'am?
Well, due to the weather and stuff, we had a lot of calls, of course, a lot of traffic and stuff. Nothing that couldn't be taken care of by. We did do our audit. We haven't got the results back from that yet. It's going to take a couple of weeks for them to look over everything and with TBI and all that and get the results back. We do have an issue with not having an IT that they hit us on, so we've got to work on that. We have spoke with Dawn Hutchison also concerning that matter. And with the scanning of the documents and stuff to attach to the NCIC entries, we got that taken care of. So far, so good. Everything's falling right into place.
Council?
No questions.
Nate?
Sounds good. Thank you.
What is your IT that you're saying? What is the IT that's something Dawn will handle?
That is going to be for our NCIC computers. They have to be fingerprinted and everything, and they have to be cleared before they can come into the office in order to work on the NCIC computers themselves because all the sensitive information that's gathered on them.
And didn't Don tell us at one time he handles all that because there's a contract that you guys have with someone for that? Is it correct?
Well, we did have the Jamie Bonds, I think Monteagle City had as their IT. And I think y'all said he had quit.
Well, actually Don said he had another person's what he told Wanda.
Yes, he's checking into that for us.
That's what he had told Wanda before, because we just had someone uploading minutes and I don't know.
Yeah, I think he said he was going to check with a Taylor Parmley, I think is the name he advised us of that he was going to check with. So we're waiting to hear back from that.
I think that's that part of the contract that they handle that we don't. Is that correct, Deb? Yeah, she said the support's done through them. So, anyone else have anything else or Heather?
Nothing.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Stewart?
y'all.
Parks and Rec, Alvin, I think as far as baseball, I think Chastity Melton's here too. Maybe we can let her in now. And also, Alvin, what do you know as far as what we're doing and got done? We'll let Chastity talk too.
Yeah, I don't, other than what we found out the other night. I tried to get hold of Casey,
Mhm.
but I didn't, wasn't able to. So I think we're kind of waiting on, I don't know about their sign-ups. Maybe Chastity can tell us if they're still doing them or if they're through with them and then proceeding to get their uniforms and whatever they need. There she is. She could probably tell.
Yeah, so with the weather all week last, we were able to get the papers into the schools. Hopefully, I went to pick those up today and they weren't ready yet, so I'll go get them tomorrow and try to get them into the schools, and hopefully, maybe by Friday, see exactly where we're at, and then maybe we'll get some good weather and we can actually start having some practices and such.
So everything's going good as far as where we're at and where we're going with the weather. I mean,
Well, I mean, there's been really no change due to the weather, but as soon as we get some pretty days, I think you'll probably see some kids out there on the baseball field.
Jesse, there also are some chalk to line the fields up at City Hall that was bought prior year. They said there's several bags, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
And Alvin, are you going to get with the employees as soon as they can get the time to go put up that net? You said it was out there.
Yeah, I just hadn't talked to him about it yet, but I think that's still in the score box, Jesse, the new net that
I
hadn't been
believe
put in.
so. Yeah, I believe it's in the press box.
It
And
is.
the fencing around the back of it needs to be put back up as well.
Right, the short fence, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just waiting to see until weather get better. It won't take that long to put it all up. We'll get it up.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything for Chastity or?
Yes.
See, I like your idea of offering different tiers for fundraising. So I apologize, I haven't replied to your email yet, but I will do that. I'll do that in the morning. Make sure you have that. But it looked good to me. I like that idea.
I think this might be a good opportunity for Chastity to make an appeal to people that are watching tonight, to help with donations for the boys and girls who are going to play. Each one of them, as I understand, needs about $100 for their uniforms and shoes and equipment. And it's a tax deductible donation to be made. I'm not exactly certain how the donations come in, either directly to you or through City Hall, but this would be a good time for people that want to help to make a donation.
Well, we haven't actually price checked the uniforms yet, but we were figuring $75 per kid maximum, and really going to try to stay well below that if possible. We don't get their cleats or anything like that. What we would supply is just the jersey top, the pants, and maybe the socks and the belt. But as far as their cleats and those sorts of things, the parents buy those on their own.
And isn't there some in the press box that I think Jessica said was left from last year?
I think that there would have been some donations maybe from an organization, that there are some there. We'll definitely look at those and try to get those out to the players who need them. And as far as how the donations are done, it's my understanding that the check can be mailed directly to the City Hall, with making sure that you put baseball, softball in the memo, and then that'll go into our account. So.
And it's tax deductible. Deb, instead of giving a tax form, said that she would give them a receipt. But you're right, Jessica, because there's also in there a sponsorship program for sons. Chastity, if you want to tell them a little bit about that, because there's a lot of businesses on here and people and organizations, if they want to be part of the community and to help me.
So, as of right now, what we know is that in the past, it's been $500. If an organization gives $500 or business, then they will get not only their logo and their their saying or whatever on a sign that goes on the on the back of the fence, but they also get their name and logo on the jerseys, so that these will be basically walking advertisement anywhere the team plays, that an advertisement will be happening. So that currently is the only Bo, do you want to say something? The only option that we have, and then also just saying, if you want to give a donation, maybe you can't do 500, then you can give what you can, and go from there.
What are the signs, Cassidy?
I'm sorry.
The signs they put on the fence that has the business name on it. How much do those cost?
Well, and that's what I had proposed. What the sponsorship that I guess we used last year only give the option for the 500, and I had sent a proposal to do some different tiers where, if you give, I think I said 100, then you would get just a sign on the back. If they gave a larger number, I believe I said 300, then they would get maybe a sign. And I thought, and this is something that you guys all probably need to think about as well. If they give more money like that, then could we do some sort of signage that could be seen from the road, so that, not only people who come to support the baseball, if they come to the games, softball, baseball games, see it, but could we do some sort of signage on the fence closest to the road, so that can be seen when a person's driving through? And then, of course, the $500 tier, which gets the on the jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've used that outside fence before for our signs. I mean, we can look at it, but I don't think it'd be a problem, because I think it's been used before for that. So it should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they used all the way around it, didn't they, Alvin, when you did it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't see a problem. So.
Okay. Anyone else? I guess not. Thanks, Chastity. We appreciate it.
Good job, guys. Appreciate you.
Okay, next we'll have a utility. John, and are you and Travis Wilson on here, just in case we need to refer to Travis?
I am.
I'm here.
Somebody just had a chat, and I don't know, we can't read those right now, but if somebody can look at that and see what it is and note it, we'll get to that in just a moment. I just, missed it. Go ahead, John.
Well, I don't have nothing really, unless you all got anything. Of course, Travis, he'll probably tell you about the flow monitor and stuff.
Well, we'll hand it over to Travis. Travis, you here? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we see you.
Okay. We are continuing with the flow monitoring project. The contractor will be checking those weekly. I believe they should be up there. They may have been up there today or tomorrow.
They was.
Okay, well, good. Everything, I talked to them this morning. They said everything looks good. So that's progressing forward. And we'll be getting with John here over the next week or two to begin the drawdown testing at the 2 pump stations. So we're on schedule and collecting data as we speak.
So when do we have just an estimated date to have this data, so we'll know what the I&I is?
Probably, let's see, they're calling for quite a bit of rain toward the end of next week. So maybe in the next 2.5 weeks, that would give us time to collect that rain data next week, do the next collect the following week, and then give us a couple of days to give a preliminary review of what we've seen so far. So maybe 2.5 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Sam, I'm gonna refer to you because we know we're dealing with a lot of different situations. We have someone with a hand raised, but right now we're not at that point. Is it okay if we address that when we get down just a little bit, or should we do it now?
No, it's time to, I mean, you do your business and then you can accept citizen comments.
Okay, so please keep your hand up. We will get to that soon. Okay. All right, does anyone, council, have anything for John or for Travis?
No.
Nate?
Nope.
Jessica?
See it moving forward.
Doreen?
No.
I know. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Hey, John, will you stick around for a little while? Because I need
Yeah.
you. Fine. Okay, so we'll go back to street department. Keith, are you here?
You might need unmuting.
Okay, can somebody who's checking the unmuting do that, please?
I think it's Keith's iPad.
Yeah. You got me?
Gotcha. Don't see you, but we got you.
Okay, that's probably a good thing.
How are the streets departments going, sir?
Pretty good. Started, we got some cold mix today, started patching some holes, trying to take care of some of that. And on First Street, the issue that Nate had with road washing.
Yeah.
Found 2 pieces of it's a 30-inch culvert, and we found those today, and we'll try to get started on that next week.
So you're gonna dig the culvert up and replace it, or put a length in it?
No, it just needs added on to the end of it, and widen that road out, where it's washing.
Perfect. And I saw y'all put some rock out there on the road going to the water tower too.
Yeah, we did that. We've not got to finish that because it's just been so wet. And really last week, limbs out of the road and stuff like that. It was a pretty big deal. So that's kept us pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm afraid codes enforcement officers gonna come by my house before I get all the limbs out of my yard now.
Yeah, there was a question today about that. Some people calling wanting to know, if they put their limbs outside the road, would we haul them off? And we can't go clean everybody's yard up,
Well, you never have you, Keith? I mean, of course, that's something we're going to deal with before too long, too.
Yeah,
There's several
yeah.
things.
I mean, if it's stuff we've cut up, that's been across the road, yes, we'll go back and clean it up. But as far as picking up stuff, when people drags it outside the road, yeah, we don't have the time or the manpower for that.
But they can take it to the convenience center in Monteagle. Is that right?
Right.
Residents? Yeah.
Right. We always take care of it when it gets there. But other than that, I mean, that's all I've got.
That's limbs. That's not anything else as far as it's not building materials or anything like that,
Right,
just for
right.
clarification.
Right. Yeah. Just where the ice has broken limbs out, and stuff like that.
And while you bring up convenience center, we can note this. I think the council's aware of it. Both Saturday, there was a misunderstanding with the compactor being full, so that was taken care of. Joe came up. I called, Keith, was it 6:30, 7:30? I don't know, 6:30 wasn't it this morning? We had it earlier this morning, and I actually started calling 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. The compactor was full, so that is handled by Marion County. So I did call Marion County, and the individual that does their pickups got sick toward the end of the week and was put in the hospital. It's either cancer or heart attack. They wasn't sure, but he was in the hospital. So there was no one that picked up. So their schedule got off. I did speak with David, Mayor Jackson. He did call me, I think, around 9. We were not scheduled till tomorrow, but I told him I didn't think that could work. And he had someone up here I'm not sure. Do you know what time it was, Keith? That
I think it was around 2 or something like that, maybe.
that they did come and pick up the trash that was in the compactor, but that is beyond their control. It is a Marion County pickup, and that is what happened, and nobody knew it till this morning, you know, that it was not, well, it wasn't done, and that the individual got sick and they had a contractor doing it. So that's what happened. The reason there was a temporary shutdown in the convenience center, which council, when we start working on our budget, and we do need to start scheduling those things, whether we do them today or, you know, do them at another date, but we need to start having budget meetings as, that is something we're going to have to address, as well as several other items that are on our budget that we need to look at. Is that correct, Keith or John? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I don't.
I don't either. No, I don't.
Okay. So, council?
Keith, you do know it is supposed to start raining Thursday for about 7 straight days.
All right, then I'll wear my raincoat.
Put your waders on.
Yeah, it'll take me a long time to melt.
Alvin?
No, I don't have anything.
Well, while we're on the budget, did anybody have an objection to just going ahead and scheduling a budget meeting, our first budget meeting the Monday before our workshop? And that way we can just go get that process rolling.
Can we do that down here in new business? So since we're,
Oh, okay. Okay.
if you don't mind, I'd rather do that since we've got several things we've got to make sure that we're following code.
My feeble mind to remember it, but I'll try.
We'll make a note here, Nate. Week before the meeting. Okay. Jessica?
I have no questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate y'all and the hard work.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, O business is the second reading of ordinance 0421, occupational safety. 0421. Oh, wait a minute. Well, go ahead. We're going to do this one first. I'm going to follow the order. We got Earl here, but he's not on here right now. Ordinance to establish and update occupational safety and health program plan, devise rules and regulations, provide for a safety director and the implementation of such a program and plan. Whereas in the compliance of public chapter 561 of the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee for the year of 1972 and the city of and county of Monteagle, hereby updates the occupational safety health program plan for our employees for the town of Monteagle and for the by the council. So, do I hear? This is the second reading on ordinance 0412, occupational safety. Do we have a motion to approve the second reading of this ordinance?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. Okay, next on new business. Then we have business permits. There is one business permit in your packet. Earl, you're here. Do you have anything? We'll just go ahead and let you report on the business permit. And then we have the owners here, so.
Yeah, this local bar and grill, Dean Gibson, I approved the business permit, life safety issues on 2/3/21. And you should have a copy of that I have signed. And also I did a certificate of occupancy for the same structure for their alcohol licensing. I did that for them also. So I would ask for approval of their business permit.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
We do have Bo. Are you here tonight for your dad?
Yeah, finally.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Bo before we vote?
Are you close to opening?
We are close.
How close?
I mean, whenever y'all gives approval, that's how close.
We
All
just-
right.
Okay. Does that, anyone else have any questions or comments for Bo?
Forward to it.
There's his dad. There's Dean. Are you feeling better, Dean?
A lot better.
Glad you're here.
Good
Appreciate
deal,
it.
man. Good
All
deal.
right, let's do a roll call vote. Doreen,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
myself, yes. Welcome aboard. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, I'm going to refer to our attorney here before we start what we're doing here.
Mayor,
Yes,
Earl, I've got 3 more zoning issues that need to be brought up to the board.
okay, all right, go right ahead. sir.
I need some direction on some of those. On the one in 721, I went and looked at a cabin, about a 12 by 16 cabin that was being built on Central Street, which is part of Campbell subdivision. No, they had no permit, number one, and number two, it's one of those type structures that it doesn't meet the minimum square footage to be a residence. I found the owner, talked to him, Troy Rollins, and he was under the understanding that it was not in the city limits. He thought the city limits was in the middle of Central Avenue, but they do border the backside of his property all the way up that street. Anyway, I've talked with Sam about it, trying to come to some resolution, and I need you guys to kind of give me some direction on which way to go. Sam advises to just give him 30 days to have it moved or torn down. And I just need y'all, if there isn't any other options out there, I just need to know what we need to do. It's certainly a non-conforming use. I placed a stop work order on it and also advised Mr. Rollins that it wasn't the type of structure that could be put in that R1 residential district.
We'll refer to Sam before we even discuss it ourselves, since it was not on the agenda, and we'll clarify that, which it's with codes enforcement, we've got to see that's added back on here. But Sam, since you are her expert on this and you've made Earl's discussed it to you, could you give us your opinion?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is it not only fails to meet the square footage for your residential area, but it's not an appropriate structure for that. That's not zoned for that. Correct, Earl?
That's correct. Yeah.
And so unless y'all are inclined to change the zoning on that tract, which would be you know what it is to rezone and everything. I mean, you've got a law that you've got to enforce. And usually what we do, and I heard your codes enforcement person say that, what we're trying to do is, or your police officer say that, you try to get people to voluntarily comply without having to bring complaints against them in city court and that sort of thing. So that's why I suggested to Earl to give him some time to move it or to tear it down before we took any action. And that's still my recommendation.
Earl, I haven't talked to Troy, but I understand from his brother that it was kind of intended to be temporary until they built their real house on that property.
That wasn't what I was told.
Okay.
And if that is the situation, there is something in the zoning ordinance for a temporary structure, and you give them so many days, that you can. But it's still, even at that rate, even for temporary, it'd be up to me. It'd be more like a RV or something like that. It's just a small 12 to 16, one room. But if that's, hey, I'll do what you guys want me to do. I just consider that to be a non-conforming use, and we just need to take some action.
What I'm curious about is, would it work as a shed? If he were building a house, would it qualify as an outbuilding, as an appurtenant structure to a conforming building within R1? And could we just say, hey, because I rode by and looked at it, it doesn't have any windows. I mean, it's hardly a house.
Right.
Could it just be a shed and have him get a permit to build a real house as part
One of the options that I had considered and thought about was doing that particular thing. If it's just going to be an accessory structure to an R1 residence, it would work for that.
Can't live in it, right?
But he can't live in it.
Right.
I mean, you were saying a shed, Nate, so, I mean, I'm just asking the question. We're talking about a living residence right now is what Sam said, that it was non-conforming, so.
Well, I just drove by and looked at it and it didn't have any windows that I could see. It was just a door and it looked like a shed.
Yeah, I went by there and looked too. It's a shed, but I didn't know. My first thought was because over to the right of it, you can see where he's cleaned out for a foundation. So I thought, well, maybe he's building a house. I don't know.
Well,
And,
also there's a power pole there with a meter base on it right there in that field. But if that will work for me, you tell me what we need to do. If we need to get him to sign some paperwork that here's what this is going to be, or what we need to do, because we've done that in the past, for a property on Wells Road that was confusion about zoning. And we went through the Board of Zoning Appeals, and he signed some paperwork.
Where's the city limits, did you say?
They run the backside of that property all the way up Central, all the way to the road there.
So he's not in city, or he is?
He is in the city. His property is the last property in the city on the backside.
Sam, what's your
Yes.
recommendation?
I gave it. I mean, if you can make it in a accessory structure to something that he expects to build, that's fine. Or if it's just a shed, I guess a shed that someone that doesn't live in is okay there, isn't it, Earl?
It'd be it's an outbuilding or an accessory structure to the main structure, which would be for storage.
But if somebody resides in it, then it's not a proper.
And I don't think he's living there now. He's just in the process of construction.
He's living in Chattanooga. He's living in Chattanooga, and my understanding is he and his new wife are discussing the house design. So I don't mean to.
Hey, that works great for me. If that's just leave it like it is, and or do we need to have a paperwork signed that here's what the deal is, or what?
Would he need a permit for that shed if it was?
He wouldn't need a permit for an outbuilding.
What would happen if we gave him some paperwork that simply said that is a shed and it is not to be lived in, and give him a timeline where he can get a building permit on a regular building?
Sounds good to me.
Sam, would that work under this? So we're trying not, could you draw up an agreement that it is a shed and it won't be lived in?
I can, but it looks to me, Earl says he's done that before. I mean.
Well, Earl, can you do it? Who did?
No, I didn't do it before. The Board of Zoning Appeals. Nate was there.
I think I was the president of the BZA at that point.
Yeah, I think Nate would be a good man to draw that up.
If you want to draw it up and send it to me and let me polish it up, that would be great.
I'll do that. So I guess I need clarity from the board. Do we want to put a timeline on when he would break ground, or do we just want to simply say it's not to be lived in, it's an accessory structure?
It can't be lived in.
Yeah.
Period.
So we don't need to tie it to any future building permit. We just say, guess what? That's a shed and you're not to live in it.
If he wants to apply to make it a temporary structure while he builds, he can do that. But right now, all we're doing is reacting to a structure that looks like it's intended to be a very small residence. And we're letting him know that that's not possible.
Yeah. And I have concerns about letting him use it as a temporary structure. I think I'd rather have him bring in an RV or something like that, because once you put a toilet in your outbuilding, it's a fancy outbuilding permanently. Can't take it back.
So it's going to be, the agreement's going to say it's a shed and it's not going to be lived in. And you're going to send that to Sam and he's going to review it. And then once Earl gets it signed off, is this what we're discussing here? So Debbie's got it for the minutes. So, I mean, we've got to make a motion here is if we're going to, right, Sam, we would have to make a motion in a second to go this route. I'm just clarifying.
Well, I mean, I think that, Earl, do you need particular direction from them, or is just understanding what your plan is okay for them?
Well, I think you need to take action, because Troy's still telling me he never knew it was in the city limits, and still says he's got maps that show it's not in the city limits. And, I've looked back through every map I've ever had from Monteagle, and it's always been.
All right, well, let's have a motion then to inform him in writing that this is a shed that is not to be lived in, and have him agree to it by signing off on that.
And that way it doesn't have to be removed. It can be used as a
Right.
shed, correct? Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, I guess, since I'm drafting it.
Oh, sorry.
And you're going to send it to Sam for him to review, and then
I will.
we'll have it.
So the motion will be to allow Troy Rollins to keep that current structure as an accessory outbuilding structure only, and I guess forbid him to use it as a residence.
Right.
Okay.
So did you make the motion? Alvin, did you second it? Or did somebody else
Yeah.
second it?
Nate, I think Nate made it. Did you make it, Nate? I'll second. It don't matter. Yeah.
Okay, roll call vote. Doreen?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay.
Okay, I typically don't have a whole lot, but actually tonight I've got two more zoning issues that need to be discussed.
Join the club.
Property on the right side of the road between Tracy and Monteagle, building owned by Claude Hoback. Address is actually US 41 10218. It used to be a beauty shop years ago. It's in a commercial district, actually C2 up through there. And a gentleman has inquired about having the water turned on. Says he's going to live there. And of course, it's Steve, when you can't have a residence in a commercial district, as that is. He's already put sign, and I went up there and looked at it. He's already got signs put out, some kind of and I'm sure most of y'all have been anywhere you go, you can see it. There's signs out. And I've talked to him once, and I told him then he had to have a business permit before we could do anything else. And I'm not sure that he's even turned one of those in yet. That's been over a week ago, or maybe a week and a half. And I checked it out. There is plates on the tables in there. There is barbecue grills around the back. And the guy, I think he's living there, just to be honest with you. So I need to find out what we need to do. I can't go up there and sit in the parking lot when he comes in at night to go to bed, but we need to figure out what needs to happen there.
Are you talking about?
He also talked to me about putting in he said he want to put a shower in, kitchen in, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, man, you can't do it. It's a commercial zone. Well, he says his wife is in some health issues. And while they're having that business there during the day, if she needed to lay down or fix something to eat, I'm not comfortable with signing a building permit for any of that, to be honest with you. So,
Are you talking about Sharon's old beauty shop?
that's it.
So is he living in it? Is he wanting to live in it, or is he going to build a business, put a business in it?
He's got a business. He's already got a business there, but I've advised him, put a note on the door and talked to him on the phone and told him until we had a business permit that he couldn't live. He couldn't even open the business up. But he's already got signs out. He's already put an outbuilding on the outside.
What kind of business is it?
Outpost. I've seen. He said it's going to be a outdoor flea market. That's what my understanding.
Putting the cart before the horse, isn't he?
Well, that's what I kind of thought, and I'm just, don't really know what to do. As soon as he gets a business permit application turned in, I'll deal further with that. But I just wanted y'all to know that I'm not comfortable with it.
Have you turned on the water yet, Earl?
No, water has not been turned on until I get a business permit. It will not be until
I wouldn't turn on the water till they get it cleared up.
I believe he's still living there. But anyway, so just probably no action needs to be taken right now, but I just want y'all to be aware of that. That's what I'm needing.
I just checked with town hall, and there has been no business permit turned in for that location.
I don't really know what to do then.
You might send a police officer by there after hours to see if there's anybody in there.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll talk with Jack about that. He and I worked that out. And
I
if
mean-
nothing else, I appreciate what Jack's doing. And there's times that even with this guy right here, he just needs to go up there and be cited to court for not having a business permit and for the actions of possibly living in that house or that building.
Yeah.
And then and then there again, if he gives all that up, you can just drop the case before it goes before the judge. But there's just times that there's just so much I can do.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's wrong, I can't find any way to remedy the situation, in other words. But a police officer can
Right.
do it
And
quick.
Jack is doing it now that you explained that to me, and he's been going. That's where he had 5 citations this month. So,
Anyway,
All 5 of them
got
at this place?
I'm sorry.
You said Jack had 5 citations because of it. Was it
No.
any of them at this place?
no, remember he said he had 5 citations, and Nate asked him what they were, or he said 5
Right.
citations is what he had.
They were property maintenance issues.
But they weren't at this place. Okay.
No.
Okay.
But I'll get with Jack on that. And he can help me with this. It'll help me tremendously. I got one more thing, and then I'll be done. There is a manufactured home at 12 Payne Avenue. That's right behind. Well, it's right where Billy Joe Lockhart used to have that restaurant. And I think at one time that building pretty shot this, but all that's been torn down. But somewhere along the line years ago, there's a double wide manufactured home got in there, and that's there again. It's a commercial zone, and the zone, for nobody living there, but right now it's being used as a rental house. I have talked to the owner, and I went by there, and they were building a accessory structure in the back, and they're also redoing their front porch. When you have a non-conforming use, you can't make any modifications to it unless it's something strictly to do with maintenance. So neither one of those actually were. And I talked to the owner. She lives in Nashville. And I gave her 2 options. And number one would be go have it rezoned some way or another to a residential instead of commercial. Or she's going to have to move. Well, I got an email from her this morning, and it says, Mr. Geary, I've decided I'm going to sell it, and it's going to be moved off the property. So
Good.
that is probably a good solution to that deal.
That's a great solution.
So will the property go back to commercial because it was never zoned to residential?
It never was residential.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. But you said under that situation, it had been there, so we would have to let that stay until they had sold it or moved it. So if they move it, then it'll just be it'll be commercial, correct?
Yeah.
That is true. And she owns a lot right in front of it too. And we talked about, she's got some good ideas really about things to put, businesses to put there that would be properly zoned for. So worked out good.
Okay.
And that's all I have. Unless somebody has something for me.
Well, hang around, Earl. We got a couple more things we got to deal with. We may have to question.
Earl, what's going in to the old pit stop?
The old pit stop.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Where is that at?
the old Speedy Sack, the old pit stop.
Oh, yeah.
Right
Yeah,
next
they
to
got
you.
that guy. Yeah, I've got a permit on him. He told me the permit is for a place where people get off the interstate and run the office. They could be like several office desks in there with Wi-Fi and all that, where if somebody need to get off the interstate, they'd have a place to go to communicate, with other people, with the Wi-Fi and having a little office space there. That was my understanding. And that's been, gosh, it's been 6 or 8 months ago when that project started. They're just fiddling around right now. That's what it is.
All right. Does anyone have anything for Earl besides anything else for Earl?
Good job, Earl.
Thank you.
Jessica?
No, I don't.
Nate?
Thanks.
Appreciate you, Earl. Okay.
I do have one more question because I had a neighbor in the Campbell subdivision ask me about the single wide that was going to get moved. Is that still on tap to be moved?
Oh, absolutely. It's not gone yet. Mr. Elisa Powell, what was her name? Anyway, yeah. And it never was. It was just backed in there. And according to her, they were waiting on the weather to get better for the mover to come and pick it back up, just to be pulled out. I thought it may have already been done, but maybe not.
Well, I had talked to her and she'd said the same thing, and that's what I told the neighbor. I just didn't know whether there was a timeline on your notice to have her move it, or whether y'all were in communication. I was just curious.
Yeah, she'd been very good to call me and tell me that, they're going to go next week. If, the weather breaks and then it rains again. And anyway, it's going away.
Yeah, well, it has not been easy to do anything other than play in the mud.
That's true.
Anything else for all folks?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the next business. Let me check one thing. Hey, Deb, can you give me the date of the foreign letter, please? I'm going to refer to Sam here because we did get some emails. We did get some information today, and Sam, correct me, but since you are an attorney, as we begin this, there was a question of how we handle our citizens hearing according to code. I know there's Robert's Rules of Order and there's also code. So what I'm going to do is do a roll call. So we've got it. Okay, and then I've got a couple of notes before we start citizens hearing, if we decide to do it before we address ordinances, okay? It's a little out of order with Robert's Rules of Order, but there's a reason for this. I think I did forward, I didn't get it till this afternoon, some of the emails to you, the packet for the council up here, but I'll address those as we go. So Sam, correct me anytime that I may be speaking incorrectly. But first and foremost, if we want to, let's move the citizens' comments up to the new business before we read the ordinance. This first reading of ordinance 05-21, which would be RBT property. And of course, we will do one with each one of these if we choose to do that, okay? So I'm going to ask for a motion.
Understanding that the actual public hearing's next time.
Yes.
But you are letting citizens comment on it prior to taking action on it by someone making a motion to move citizens' comments up to the current place in the agenda and letting people comment for the 3 minutes that you normally allow.
Correct. So do we have a motion to move the citizens' comments, which will be timed? Nate, you're going to do that tonight. As we do that, you said to be prepared to do that. But do we want to move that before we deal with any of the ordinances tonight? So do we have a motion to move citizens' comments up to that point?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Sorry, Don.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Cold feet.
Myself is yes. Okay, before we start, Nate, I know we had a hand raised a while ago, but before we start even here opening citizens hearings, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to note this for the record. There's two things I want to note here. Of course, and it'll be later on in our agenda. If we approve an amount for a web designer, which will get our information online. But today I did note that some of the attachments were not included. And I mentioned that to Sam. And
On the previous minutes.
Yes, and those will be added once we get a new web designer and all that's updated to that, okay? But the former one did not put the attachments, or those mentions of addendums were not included. So that's an error and it was not intentional, but we will make that correction once we get a new web designer. Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to note this on February the 2nd, 2021 from a Mrs. Jan Bowling that we received, and it was received at Town Hall, a letter with her concerns that for public record, on 2/17/21. It's a 2-page letter to myself and the council concerning, she's writing about the Petro development, her concerns, her issues, and her recommendations if it is pursued. This will be here at Town Hall, and it will also be included as an attachment once we get a new web designer in tonight's minutes, okay? As well as the other ones will be corrected. Also, and I'll have to look on the email, I think it was 3:32 today, and I forwarded it to you guys. We received a document. I don't know, did everybody get their email? I know you didn't get to pick up your package because you're at home. And I think it was Mary Beth Best, and it was received this afternoon. It is a stop the truck stop in Monteagle with comments. It says, I am in full support of smart economic growth and development of the town of Monteagle. I do not support the truck plaza being built on Trussell Road, Sampley Road, Dixie Lee, encroaching upon already existing residential areas and too close to children's ballparks. It says Monteagle Town Council must vote on the development. It is a printout. It looks like there's 13 pages. I don't have the email. Does anybody have their email pulled up? Because I think there's something else in the email that I forwarded to you. There is comments. It has been reviewed here. I think there says, Doreen, did you count the signatures? Did you say that?
I did. I got 45.
You got 45, even though there's more than that in comments, and they're from different areas, from Monteagle, from, I don't know, from residents, from people that live there, from different areas as well. But Sam, correct me if I'm right or wrong. This is 13 pages here that will also be made as part of the minutes as an addendum or an attachment. Is this how I handle this tonight without reading?
Correct. Correct.
Oh, sorry, it's 18 pages. Mary Beth, I did just see that. It's 18 pages total. So that will be included, as well as in the back, there are signature pages as well as emails. So is this being handled properly, Sam, tonight?
Yes, correct. Correct. You've noted it on the record that it's been received, Madam Mayor.
The other thing, Sam, while we're talking about receiving documents for clarification, Sam, as I stated, which has been challenged, I did not realize we had a certified letter, but we did note an email that was received. Please mention the correct number of signatures. I didn't count those. Will somebody count the signatures, please? That are in the back.
There must have been an issue with the digital copy because I only counted 45 as well. And I reached out to Mary Beth and she said there were 218. But I couldn't ever get it to come up. And I don't know whether it was how the scanner went or how my program opened it.
I only got 45, mate.
I didn't change anything. This is exactly what you received, what I received, what everybody received. So
No, I don't. I think it's just something with how my computer opened the scan. But I think there were pages missing, maybe even pages off the back. I had some blank pages at the end of the document that began with Jim Waller presentation.
I've got one that has 15 signatures from people here. I have one that has 13. I have one that has 8, and I have one that has 9. So there's 4 separate pages. It has different numbers on it. So, but I mean, you received what I did via email, and the packets were here. You were aware of it. So, and I asked Sam how to address this. So, Sam, that's how you said to address it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So also, Sam, while we're discussing letters received, which has been challenged, we did not receive. That is incorrect, Mary Beth says. So I don't know what she's talking about. We'll get to citizens hearing in just a minute. But I received an email and sent it to you. It was in question, an email that you and Earl had reviewed from Mr. Best. I did not realize it was certified.
Well, we received a letter that was signed by Mr. Best and several other of the residents there making complaints about one of the truck stops. And Earl and I went through the citations and the various issues that were resolved. And I composed a response letter, which I believe the council was copied on.
And you did send that to Mr. Best, you said?
Yes.
Correct. And that was never held from that date from you received it from the email. I mean, I didn't know it's certified and another council didn't. We did later find out, and I have made sure it has been addressed in this office. If they receive certified, it will be known and we will know that. So all we can do is correct that error. You know, that did happen. Sam, while we're discussing this, also the issue of funds that was received from us, will you please let the council know what you did with that?
The citation where we had the court judgment.
Yes.
Yeah. I think each of you received a demand letter that I sent to Mr. Kilgore relative to the court citation that was entered against him in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, or 2018, excuse me, in 2018. And I gave him a certain amount of time, I think to the first week of March, to come to town hall and pay that fine. Otherwise, based on the mayor's direction, I'll proceed to institute collection proceedings.
What was the amount that you did determine based upon Mr. Rains's fine when the ordinance was done? Because this was nothing to do with us, but we gave you the files that we received from Mr. Cameron.
$4,900, $50 a day for what, 98 days or something like that.
We just sent you everything that Mr. Cameron sent us and every fine that could be found. And we'll deal with this one in March as well, because Jack Hill will report on that. So I just wanted the council to know, have y'all received that information?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any questions for Sam before we move into citizens' comments? Because we want to handle this as best as we can.
So he has until the date indicated, which I think you're right, it's the first week of March, and then it'll be turned over to city court, or what happens then?
I think the thing to do would be to go to Jasper and file a collection action in Sessions Court, because then we can issue garnishments and things of that nature. And actually that's a little bit easier for me to operate in Jasper than it is to come up there.
Okay.
Can you check if we got a fire? We got a fire alarm going off. Y'all go ahead. If we have to step out, we will. We'll let you know. But y'all continue with the meeting. Nate, if you want to go ahead and start the process, I think we have one hand raised and
No, I'd like to ask a question.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Sam, there are people that have heard that the amount of the fine was in excess of $30,000. Can you clarify that?
The judgment that Judge Raines entered was for so many days, and I assume from what I have heard, Mr. Kilgore extended past that number of days. But I don't have that reduced to a judgment, Jessica. What I have written on paper by the judge is that 98 days. And so that's what I'm proceeding with, is with the 98 days. It's been almost 3 years since that occurred. And I've got to go with what's solid, as opposed to, I don't know how many more days he extended past the date of the judgment, to tell you the truth. No one's told me that. So what I've got is written on that paper, and that's what I think is the safest thing after 3 years to try to collect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, Sam, there's another thing we do want you to do, and I mentioned this. We do have a document from both Harvey Cameron, and we also have a document from Debbie that said it was not pursued in court based upon the information they were told not to pursue it. I've asked that we did ask Mr. Bible the same thing verbally. He said that. I want you to send Mr. Bible because he's the one that sent us those letters. Why he did not pursue that in court if it was outstanding. Can you do that on the behalf of the town?
I will do something of that nature. I probably would be a little less formal with Mr. Bible as a fellow lawyer, but I will try to get that cleared up for you, Mayor.
Well, I mean, we need to clear it up for the people, because obviously there's a question there and we don't know anything about it and we sure aren't hiding it, but let's just clear that up while we're dealing with it, so, and go on from there.
We got it.
All right. Are we ready to start, Nate? You can go ahead. Somebody had their hand raised. So if you want to start with the hand raising, then you start your timer.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is let people introduce themselves, and I'll start the timer after they've introduced themselves.
Okay. I think Mary Beth has her hand raised. I want to see. Nate, are you?
Well, she has not been unmuted yet, or did somebody else?
There we go.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I guess we're not doing video. There we go. Okay, we're good. So thank you, Nate. My name is Mary Beth Best. I live at 521 Lotzenheiser Place in Monteagle, Tennessee. I have two items I'd like to bring up tonight. The first is the petition. You have a petition with 218 signatures, and I would like that corrected in the minutes. I did make a mistake and send the wrong PDF, but all of you have been sent the correct PDF. Plus, what Marilyn held up was an envelope with a paper copy. If you look on page 7, you will see that there are 172 signatures on the first page, on the first petition. And then there are more signatures that equal 218. They are authentic signatures for people that own property and are affected by the possibility of the truck stop being built in town. So I would like that corrected in the minutes. It is
Wait a minute, Mary Beth. Before you go any further, you can see what I've got. Nate, show my screen.
The envelope, and I put a 218 signatures in each envelope. So if it's, and you have an email that will also, you can look at the email. I did send the wrong thing on the PDF, but you all have the correct set of petitions. If you don't have it, I'm going to bring it to you again tomorrow. I personally made the copies of it, and I will be glad to make more copies. But I have signatures, and that's how many we have so far. It is an active petition, and it is still in rotation, and we'll present additional signatures as they are collected. The second thing that I would like to bring up is we are talking about the current property of the RBT Enterprises. And you mentioned that the fines are being taken care of, whatever, but I want the codes enforcer to look now. There's no fence whatsoever around the property. It's probably been about 6 weeks. And we're doing a lot of work, and Earl's doing a lot of work in the community. And I would like to have that in the minutes that I recommend that we take a look at that. And it is out of ordinance now. It is in violation of our current city ordinances now. So there should be more attention given to that property as it sits. And that's all I got tonight.
Thanks. Earl, have you been out and looked at it? Do you know what?
I'm not sure what the question is.
She was indicating that she felt like there was something out of compliance on.
There is no fence around the Monteagle truck repair at Forsyth and Trussell. It has been taken down. The dilapidated fence that was not in compliance to begin with has completely been taken down. So there's no fencing around that commercial property. And I would like to request that it be taken a look at.
Okay, I will take care of that. That's going to be a property maintenance issue. Jack and I will look at that.
Thank you. And one other thing I'd like to say is I do appreciate the exchange that I've had with the alderman this week. I know this is a difficult time and we're talking about difficult issues, but I do appreciate the conversation. It's really, really important, and I do appreciate it.
Thanks. 8 seconds to spare.
I'd like to say something else again, if I can.
Sure.
This time in a different role. If you do or don't know, my name is Chastity Melton, and I am also the coordinator of the Grundy Safe Communities Coalition, which is our drug and alcohol prevention coalition in Grundy County. And I just wanted to come to you all and make you aware, that we exist and that we are here to help with anything that we can prevention related. So whether that be signage in any of our businesses or our parks or anything that we can do to help with that, as well as Narcan trainings or anything, anything drug and alcohol related as far as prevention goes. So I would love to come and be a part of the Easter egg hunt and the 4th of July festivities. I really would. I want to get in the loop with this group here as far as my actual job goes. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nate?
Well, so I guess, are we looking for other people to raise their hands? I haven't seen any other.
Yeah.
Casey Reed in the chat box is saying she cannot get on. Casey, would you like to make a comment?
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't you, I've introduced you, but go ahead and you introduce yourself and we can go for it.
I'm not getting it. Hold on a second. Start my video. There. Okay. Sorry. There we are. I want to ask a question to the council, and Councilor Sam, this is going to be a yes or no question. Okay. I've done some due diligence on Truck Stops of America, and my question to the council, and this is yes or no, forget RBT, I'm talking to the council. Has the council performed any due diligence on Truck Stops of America, the franchise? Yes or no?
I have investigated them. Yes. I have looked at them. Yes.
Okay, what is their rating? What is
And
their
I don't
stock?
know that.
What is
I
their
don't
stock? Pardon
I
me?
do not know that. I do not know that.
Well, then you haven't investigated it.
Well, I have Googled them. Let me say that.
You've,
Yeah, I have.
okay, so that's your due diligence, is Googling Truck Stops of America? Seriously? And you're a council person?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. That just speaks volumes. I'm sorry, guys. It just does. I don't even know what else to say. I'm stunned because I really thought I would get a better answer. So this is amazing. I don't even know what to say. I would suggest that the council, the city council, the planning commission, and the city attorney perform some due diligence. You guys have you talked about, Doreen, you talked about putting the cart before the horse. Well, this is exactly what's happening right here. You guys have put the cart before the horse. I've also done some research that is continuing about wells being underneath this 22 plus acres. Also possible contamination of Cave Code Creek from the runoff. We have videos. The EPA is interested in this. And, I really think that we need to stop here and make sure of what's happening and make sure that the community and the citizens and the property values and the health of everybody is not compromised.
Thanks for your comments.
Oh, sorry, time up, sorry.
Time's up.
Thank you for listening.
Do we have any other comments? Anybody want to either raise their hand or
And council members, since this is citizens' comments, they can also have comments about something other than the rezoning too.
Yes, and thank you, Chastity, for making us aware. I was not aware that that was what you did. It's an important service. I just re-upped my first responder training, and I'm old enough that I did not have Narcan training the last time I did it, and it was kind of an eye opener.
Chastity could be a real asset.
I don't see any other comments.
Nate, I do want to ask you to speak to the well, because that's been brought up a couple of times. I know that you had mentioned that. I had asked you about that, and you had mentioned something about a spring there. Do you have any information?
I don't have any information on it that is definite. You know, we had been told that there were some artesian wells there. That's not typically a formation associated with the top of the mountain. So I don't know what it was. There could very well be some wet weather spring or something there. I don't know.
When was this covered as far as this? Do y'all recall, Earl, do you recall whenever this was covered, if this did occur with this well? Because
I've heard people talk about it, but I don't know where it is. And besides, well,
my point being that
it doesn't matter what we say or do. It's still my contention. And then there again, I don't care where the truck goes in there or not. But I know engineering was done by an engineering firm that did the site plan, and I am positive sure that anything in there that would have been unfavorable for the site plan they were going to produce was covered. I mean, that would be my thoughts. Anyway, I never did know where it was at, but I've heard that rumor.
Okay, and when would that have been covered is what I'm getting at, Earl, because we've only been here, and Lucy Keeble's holding her hand up, Nate. So, well, when was that covered? Because that was already done when we took office in November. So was that done last year?
It was probably been 6-8 months ago, you know, from the beginning when the first site plan started showing up at the planning commission. You had a design professional come in, an engineer that came in and developed the site plan. And, you know, I would have thought that if there was anything there that would have been EPA or anything else, that would have come up during that process of developing the site plan. So it's been, you know, and a lot of, you know, there's been a site plan was produced, and you guys, the new planning commission probably hasn't seen the latest version that we saw back, you know, in October, November of last year, which has a lot of things on it that y'all talking about the fence. Yeah, the fence is on there. I mean, there's a lot of things that the new planning commission hadn't been privy to, things that were already, you know, was already looked at.
Nate, I think you have a hand raised there if you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, and I actually have some of those plans up on the computer, so I can share them if we have some specific questions. But Lucy, you want to go ahead?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hey guys. Well, I think the confusion about whether there's artesian wells there or not just kind of brings up the point of needing to do thorough testing. You probably are aware that when you get your stormwater, your runoff permit from TDEC, it's kind of a bond between TDEC and the developers, right? So the developers sign an agreement with TDEC that they will honor what TDEC asks them to honor, but TDEC is not a watchdog organization. They don't come out and do this. So it seems that before fast tracking anything on top of artesian wells, part of the aquifer that runs along the top of the mountain, I know that I've heard that that wells were drilled all along where the railroad was at one time to supply drinking water. But we've got lots of artesian wells, I believe, Nate, and lots of sinkholes. So groundwater pollution, it seems to me that any sort of petroleum distillates, a toxic spill, just gas from a pump, gas pump handle, engine oil, whatever could actually get in our groundwater. And I think before we become a Flint, Michigan, that we just need to take our time and really check these things out and make sure that this community is not going to be polluted by ongoing groundwater toxicity.
So I'm wondering if maybe there's a term issue, because I'm certainly not aware of any artesian wells on the mountain. An artesian well, in my understanding, and I'm not a geologist, is when you have water, you have surface water higher in the watershed that because of the gravity pressure as it goes subsurface, it then comes up to the surface with some pressure. This location is really the top of the watershed. So I'm wondering if maybe there's a different term that folks mean other than artesian well.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
So, well, then Nate, can you speak to why there is why there are wetlands on the same piece of property if it's not being fed from water that's close to the surface? And would you agree that we need to have a professional come in and really see if there's anything there that could lead to the poisoning of our water supply? Seems like we need to make sure before we move forward. It seems to make sense to me that needs to be done. And the engineer that has done his test, I mean, I don't know, maybe he's done all this testing, but we're not privy to that. And it seems that we should be privy to that, and that we should really, I mean, right now there's a huge water runoff issue from this site. I'm sure you've seen that is not being contained or properly dealt with. And this, I mean, this is a huge issue. So I just think that the water on this particular site and the wells that may be there and the aquifer that runs along the top of the plateau right through Monteagle, and there are people that probably can take you right to where these wells are. There's some old timers here and some history here that I think we can look into.
Thanks for your comment, Lucy. Yeah, I'm not, obviously that I'm here as a city council person, so I can't tell you everything there is to know about the drainage issues. I do agree that the runoff is currently an issue. I think that it needs to be corrected. I think our BT will tell you that as soon as they can start with correct construction, they'll take care of that. I'm sure there are other ways to deal with it if this doesn't go to construction.
Hey, Nate, our engineer is here. Can you please let Travis, can you put Travis back on? Because he wants to address this from a perspective, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Travis Wilson.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just a comment, typically a phase 1 environmental study is done on a site development. And so the developer would be required to prepare one of the phase 1 or phase 2 environmental studies, which would identify any environmental contamination liabilities on the property. And that's typically, that goes through regulatory agencies as well. So that most likely has been prepared. We are not the engineer on that. I have not seen any report as such, but it's very likely that a phase 1 environmental study has been done on that site. If that's the case, that they've gotten as far as developing a site plan.
Travis, will you tell them who you are and what you do for the town? I just had a question. Somebody just asked, what your background is. I mean, you are a professional.
Sure. My name is Travis Wilson. I am a professional engineer with LJA Engineering. My background is water, wastewater, stormwater, and so that's what I've done for over 24 years. So I'd be glad to answer any specific questions about that.
Well, we may have to refer back to you because you are the engineer we're using with some of the things that we've now started with our flow meters and that. You've got a hand raised. Well, it's still the same one, I think, Nate. So I think.
Maybe I can, so as my job at the university, I hire and have a lot of phase ones done, as Travis said, typically before property acquisition. So I see some things in the comment box and people asking questions that none of these things are not required. No, but they're typical due diligence that's done by every person looking at buying a property that has any sort of commercial or industrial history. And in that phase one, they look for underground storage tanks and they look for wells and that type of thing. Now, I noticed in the chat box that one of the RBT owners said that they had done a phase one. Now, that is something that they have, and if they can share it if they want to. That's not, but something that they purchased, likely prior to acquisition. So does he? So Lucy has raised her hand again. She's had her 3 minutes. Do we want to go through a repeat? I'm asking the question to the.
Let's ask the attorney how we handle this, because we're trying to, since we were called, since he received a letter about this, how should we handle it, do you think, Sam? If we.
It's up to you. If you want to receive another comment, you can. Of course, you may be opening it up to other people who want to make second rounds.
Well, I think Lucy is unmuted. We ask Lucy. Lucy, are you reacting to something that you have heard since your last comment, and is this going to be something different?
No, I'm just saying that I think that the city of Monteagle needs to make sure that all of its residents and citizens are protected when it comes to water, when it comes to air.
Yes.
And I feel like that we cannot rely on unobjective reporting suggested by the developers. We need to see the proof of that and understand exactly what the test revealed, and just make sure before moving forward on anything.
Thanks. So this sounds like this is your continuation of your original comment, so I didn't restart the timer.
Yeah.
I hope you.
Mr. Graber is here. Perhaps he could share some of his reports with us. Thank you.
Okay. Brian, do you want to address the?
We did do a phase one prior to acquisition, as you pointed out. I think at this point, it would, I don't know that we'll disclose that. I don't think there's anything there that we would be worried about, but I'm not going to just say that on this.
Well,
call.
here's an easy question, Brian, that may help put some of this to bed. Was there anything in the phase one that recommended a phase two?
No.
Okay. All right. So I can explain beyond that. So a phase one investigation looks at wells, looks at underground storage tanks and other environmental issues from the perspective of the potential purchaser to help them make a decision. If the person doing the phase one, which is an independent contractor, sees something of concern, they request a phase two. So I hope maybe that helps. If no phase two was requested, then that's a pretty good indication that there wasn't a whole lot there to see. Travis, did I miss anything in that?
Nate, that is correct.
Nate?
Yes.
Greg Maloof, I don't know how to raise my hand, so if it's hard for me to ask some questions,
Hang on. Let me get the timer started here for you. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself and then I'll start the timer.
Greg Maloof, resident of Monteagle. If I missed it, I apologize. Has there been a date and time for the town hall meeting?
Are you talking about the public hearing?
Yes.
That will be done, Deb, what's the date? March the 29th will be the public hearing, Greg.
What time and via Zoom?
I know if the governor, which we're hoping will lift the order at the end of the month, we're gonna have that in person. Deb, will it be at 5 o'clock? It'll be at 5 o'clock, but I mean, this will be posted. It's not been advertised. We have to do it in 15 days ahead of time.
But aren't you gonna do it by Zoom in addition to having the open meeting so people that don't?
It'll be Zoom, it'll be FaceTime Live, but I'm saying it'll be an open meeting. We'll be back in the conference.
Okay. Thank you. There have been many chats posted. Do you answer those chats? Tonight.
No, we tried that the first time. I realize I've kind of broken the rule because I've been looking at them, but we tried answering all the chats the first time and the meeting got so chaotic that it was hard to carry a train of thought. So we're trying to impose Zoom Robert's rules of order by doing the 3-minute comment. That's what it's about.
Okay. And my last question, a report has been done and that's fine. Is anyone on the city or the consultants from Chattanooga, and I don't know their titles, has anyone on the city side reviewed those reports and documents?
The phase 1 and phase 2?
Yes, I mean, the developer did certain reports and studies and all that. Has it been submitted to city officials?
We haven't even seen the site plan that I'm aware of. Nate, you have it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, we're at the point we had to start all over, Greg. I want to answer a question here. Mary Beth just put out there. No, this has not been scheduled, but if it is scheduled, that will be the time frame it is scheduled. Because we have to make sure that we don't have the same as that were done before with dates and times. So Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the reason we're looking at whenever we do anything. And we also have to have a public hearing for Phipps property and other items, not just RVT.
Right.
So
Right.
there's multiple facets that public hearing will address, Greg, if and when we have it, when we finish with this meeting. So
Okay.
We're not getting the cart before the horse, but as we proceed forward, that's the timeline that Sam's working with us to where we make sure we meet all deadlines.
Thank you. But, okay.
And
Thank
we haven't seen the reports because we haven't got that far, as we're just now going back to rezoning. Is that not correct, Sam? The steps we're taking?
That's correct. I mean, until it's rezoned, there's no reason to, the site plan will then be submitted for approval to the planning commission, but that's getting the cart before the horse. If we got the site plan first, we've got to have the actual rezoning occur before the site plan comes into focus.
Understood. So there's no work to be done until such time? What's the timeline on that scenario?
Well, I mean, if the rezoning is approved on the second reading on March 29th, then the planning commission meets on April 6th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
But there's still the process that we have to have the testing from the flow matters will have to be looked at. That'll be done, Travis, before the end of the month, correct?
That's correct. The meters are due to stay in for 60 days. So we are going to take a preliminary look so that we can have something to report back before the meeting.
In March, that's the March meeting. Also, is there not, and there's a traffic study that is being done now, which was a requirement of TDEC, correct? Somebody's got their hand raised.
That Susie has her hand raised. I was going to acknowledge her once we'd run through these questions.
You want to go ahead and get Susie, and then we'll address the ones we can, Nate?
Okay, let's see. I've asked her to unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just am a little bit confused because it seems to me like whether or not there are wells on this property should be of primary concern before this property is rezoned. All of it is rezoned C3. If there are wells on the property, none of it should be zoned C3, it seems to me. It seems to me like the responsible process should be to identify whether or not there are wells on the property before the zoning. Like if you zone it C3, then it's available for a truck stop. And we're going to do that before we identify whether or not there's a well on it. That does not make sense to me. That's all. That's my only comment.
We had a hand raise. Someone naming Honeycutt. Do you want to speak?
Sure. My name is Jessica Honeycutt. I live on Spring Street in Monteagle. I am a cosmetologist at the main attraction. My dad has owned that business and my grandpa before him. The question that I want to bring before City Council is merely just a question. And my concern mostly with this possibility of rezoning to a C3, I did mention it in the comments and I figured I'd just go ahead and speak to get past that so you don't have to go back and read. With the droughts we've seen in the past, we have definitely acquired less collective rainwater in the last probably decade, at least since I was a kid up here. And knowing that we have only what falls from the sky as water. And I know just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about a water issue as far as some of our infrastructure goes with our water systems up on this sweet little hill. With an industrial business like this and C3 zoning and a company of this size, in years past, we saw droughts that led us to closing businesses that rely solely on water, much like ours. The car wash, a couple other restaurants. There were timeframes of the day when we were asked to use water and timeframes we were asked not to, because again, we only get what falls from the sky up here. We're on a mountain, we're not in a valley, we don't get runoff. With an industry like this and with that report being done, being a business owner prospectively in the future for a family business, that's a major concern of mine. I do want my kids and my grandkids to be able to reside on this mountain for generations to come. And with major infrastructures like this coming in and the water consumption that they may consume, is that something that would be considered? And what's being done to ensure not only that we have safe water, but that we have the correct amount of water so that our businesses thrive in really dry summers, because we know they exist and we know we get less water every summer.
When was it, Nate? And you can probably help me. Whenever Big Creek did the connections, there was a grant written that we're now connected to Big Creek that will provide water that we did not have during the time of the drought. And so to ensure there is a split amount of water, that has been done, Jessica. Nate, do you remember the year that was done?
So that water report came out, I think, in 2009 or 2010, and it had several specific recommendations about how to avoid what happened. I think Ms. Honeycutt's probably referring to 2007. I know that was the one that sure did burn in my mind when we ran out of water. So there was that water report in 2009 that gave. Oh, I'm out of time. No, it's Honeycutt out of time. That talked about how to better integrate our water supply. And there were a lot of recommendations in that, and some were done and some were not. The things that were done that I think have got us in a little different position, or we're now all the water systems on the plateau are interconnected. So ones with a lot more capacity, like Big Creek, is now connected to Monteagle and to Suwannee. The other big thing that happened since that drought was Tracy City raised their dam and raised their capacity. And of course, we're connected with Tracy City as well. So I think there's some legitimate concerns about Yes, and in that report, you can look at the flow ratings and the requirements and what these additionalities that they did to the system would do to add more capacity to the system. I think there's some legitimate concerns that we're working through with the flow meters on whether or not we have the sewer capacity for something like that. But I think we'll know about that before hopefully any decision is made.
Hey, Marilyn,
Yes.
keep in mind, we've got a 10-inch main coming from Cooley's Rift too.
So you're to answer Jessica's question, you feel like those concerns have been addressed, John, for the increase of water and now the connections made on the plateau, because you were here. I didn't know you were still here.
Yes, they have.
So the testing, and John, we're going to ask you because you've been here for a long time now, and probably one of the experts I've heard from TDEC, TDOT, and everyone else in the way you run our utilities. The question's been asked too. One is with the capacity. The reason we're doing the testing now is to contest the I of the sewer is what's Nate referring to, right? For the flow of what's going through the system. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Inflow and infiltration, be groundwater.
Now, and do you know anything? I know
tomorrow for the.
I know that you've been around here a long time, and we have an engineer here with us. We also have Nate that knows some about that. What about an artesian well? Are you familiar? That's been brought up to us. I mean, this work was already done. Tell us what you know about it.
I know nothing about it. I mean, I've been on that property years ago and stuff, and I've never seen an artesian well. I'm not saying there's one there, not there, but I've never seen one.
Okay. Okay, Nate. Well, who's next? So.
Not seeing any other comments. Oh, Mary Beth Best. So Mary Beth, you've gone. So I asked you sort of the same question that I asked Lucy. Is this a follow up to something you've heard since then? So
it's a new question, and I typed it in there. I'm trying to follow the chronological order of things, and it does seem very confusing. So are you saying that tonight the town council is going to vote on a recommendation by the planning commission to change a 20-acre property to C3 without a completed sewage and water capacity study? Now, am I clear on that? That's not been done. And we are looking at you all voting tonight before that study is done?
So I was going to address this anyway. Could I, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. So the process of rezoning is not something that should be taken lightly, nor is taken lightly. And so the way the ordinance is set up, it doesn't just happen tonight. So tonight we will consider it and we will make a vote, but that is not a vote that does the rezoning. What happens after this vote is it triggers a public meeting where we will all discuss the pros and cons of this. And then following that public meeting, there is a second vote, and 2 consecutive votes in favor of the rezoning will then trigger the rezoning. So we're beginning that process tonight. And when we get to it, I want to say a little more about that because I think it's important. I think it's several people have come to me and said after the planning commission recommended the rezoning, they said, well, it's a done deal. It's going in now. And that's not how the process works. The process is stepwise, and lots of information can come up over time to change the situation. Does that answer your question? I know your hand is back up and you're muted.
Let Sam address that since he's the attorney on the process, so it's clear. And then a clarification of Sam. I know you and Earl and Garrett had looked at the acreage of what amount of acreage we're actually addressing here. We're not addressing 20 acres here tonight, so I don't know.
No, I don't believe so. And I don't know the exact acreage, Mayor, but no, it's not 20 acres, that's for sure. Nate's exactly right. A zoning ordinance is like any other ordinance under Tennessee law. Under the charter that Monteagle has, which is the mayor aldermanic charter, you have to read the ordinance twice. And this is simply the first reading. In other words, it can be fully reconsidered at the second meeting in March. And there will be a full public hearing at that time. And the council will consider everyone's comments. But because it is a two-step process, this is the first step.
Sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to cut you off. That was a leftover timer.
I do have a follow-up question. I just want it clearly stated in the minutes. I understand the process. And Sam, I appreciate you explaining that. I understand the process, but what I'm saying is that we are going to, the council is going to vote on a recommendation without all of the important and critical information. And the result will be a 20-acre property that will be C3 at the end of the process. I want it clearly stated that you do not have all of these reports in. You do not have access to the RBT phase 1 report. You do not have the water and sewage capacity report, but you are going to vote on a recommendation tonight.
Someone has their hand up, Nate. There's two.
Dee Dee.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm a small business owner, and in 2007, because I have a tiny hotel with 15 bathrooms, I ended up having to drill a well because Monteagle ran out of water. And I have one of the oldest businesses on top of the mountain. And I'm concerned about my cost. My guests already have to pay 19.25% taxes, as high as New York City, 5% to the town, 5% to the county, and 9.25% to the state. What's going to happen about water costs with my 15 bathroom business?
Why would this affect your water cost, Dee Dee? I know I've seen this put on Facebook, but that shouldn't affect your water costs.
Well, I'm in a unique situation, as you know very well, Marilyn. The Assembly built the water structure for the town, and now we have only one contract. So if I have a leak, the Assembly only gets one contest a year to, to go back to the city and say, well, this is a main, or this was, Dee Dee's on house. So I'm very, very concerned about water cost, and I did drill a well because I was really afraid that I, wasn't going to be able to run my business back in 2007.
Do you know the reason that there is just one water, as far as that they can ask a request once a year? Did you know that the Assembly took the town of Monteagle to court and they won the lawsuit because they only wanted 2 master meters and they would bill you out? Because that happened in, Deb, was it 2008 through 2010? And that was what the Assembly wanted to do. So that was based upon the Assembly, not on the town of Monteagle.
Right. I do understand that, and I'm sympathetic to both sides, but I'm a tiny small business owner like the main attraction. Water's a big issue, and for a hotel owner, the taxes, the hotel taxes, motel taxes are a big issue. So I just wonder, are our water costs going to increase through building more development on the mountain?
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, why should it? I mean, that doesn't even go together, even though I've seen that on Facebook. That is incorrect. Now, is there water increases with the increase in costs? Probably so. But to say because you add any business, or you add the tiny homes, or you add another development, then I couldn't see why that would happen. John, you're here. Do you see why it would increase the cost?
I don't see any reason why it should.
Travis, you're here as an engineer.
Mayor, I wouldn't really be able to answer that until we saw the study to indicate the effects. But I would not anticipate, as of yet, any type of needed increase until we really see what we're dealing with.
I just noticed something. Somebody put on here revenue. Water and sewer money cannot be mixed with general funds. And Dee Dee, you're correct. You do pay is it 5%, Deb, as far as occupancy tax to the town of Monteagle? And
Yes,
is it 5% to Grundy County?
correct.
But no property taxes, period, comes to the town of Monteagle from Grundy, Marion, or Franklin. That goes to the respective county on income. So just for clarification, that's not all of the increases in the taxes from Monteagle. So just for the record, and just to clarify, I know it was mentioned, why are we doing this? We chose to do, not a requirement, but we chose to follow the guidelines to make sure there was capacity as a council. We were just dealing with a zoning issue, and we chose to take additional steps while we're going through this to take care of everyone. So anyone can see, you go back to last year when this started, and why we're doing these things before we do, and we're not rushing into anything. Sam, I will refer to you since you're a zoning expert. We also, of course, have Sam here as an attorney to guide us through this process to make sure we do protect the town of Monteagle and all residents and all citizens. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Jim Moore, may I ask a question?
Nate?
Yeah, let me get the timer set up, Jim. All right, go ahead.
Well, it appears that this whole issue of rezoning this residential property from R3 to C3 came about as a result of the current owners desiring to build or have a truck plaza on that property. That's the only reason rezoning is being considered. Since that happens to be the function that the owner proposes to use the property for.
Huh? Yes.
Somebody talking?
No.
John.
Since that seems to be the reason the rezoning came about, maybe by a threat of a lawsuit or an actual lawsuit, why has the city not taken it under consideration that it needs to do these studies before it facilitates this very intensive truck plaza to come into the town? I mean, you have totally disregarded the rights of the adjoining residential property owners for some reason, and evidently it is to facilitate this truck plaza so you can get more money from tax revenue. So I'm asking the question, why aren't these studies, traffic study, environmental study, the sewage, the water supply, wells, all these other issues, why is this not being resolved before we go to a vote on rezoning? End of question.
Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are talking about the small parcel of property, and I'm not discrediting the small parcel of property. I know we say R3 6.4 acres makes a difference in the situation. We're not ignoring that. We're talking about, and of course, again, I know you and Garrett had an X amount. You sent it to us. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just trying to this is the point of clarification.
Well, I think Garrett I think some of the citizens have corresponded with TDEC on this issue already, and TDEC has responded on some of this. TDEC has certain responsibilities. The town has certain responsibilities. Just because a property is zoned C3 doesn't mean that ultimately it can be used in a way that is environmentally unfriendly. And the town is not necessarily the regulator of environmental issues. It's certainly something that should be considered in a rezoning. But for example, stormwater is something that is more of a TDEC issue. Whether or not there are underground storage tank issues, that's a TDEC issue. I think a lot of people who are concerned about this issue are running the gamut of what possibly could go wrong and everything. And certainly you're to consider whatever is relevant to the rezoning, but whether this test was done or that test was done is not necessarily the issue at this time.
So again, I want to go back to process, because I think in process is pretty important for me, that we're going to talk about this tonight. And I'm happy to hear the comments. I have been really disappointed to hear how it's sort of devolved into sides and teams, and all the nuances gone out of it. I think there are some really legitimate concerns that the neighbors have about how to protect their quality of life. I've certainly been doing a lot of research. I can point everyone to the American Planning Association. They have a short paper on using on residential buffers between commercial zones, and whether or not R3 zoning is the best way to protect R1, or whether walls are, or whether vegetative buffers are. I've certainly been reading a lot over the last several weeks. Where I've come to is that there are a lot of questions. And I guess I'll go ahead and talk about it. I've begun to ask those questions to Brian Graber, the developer, because I feel like if the rezoning is the time where the town can and should weigh in on how this proposed development might impact the town, but also particularly the neighbors. Once the rezoning has happened and the site plan and everything, that goes to the planning commission, but it doesn't come back to the full council again. And so this is where I feel like this is my time to give input, and I think it's important. And I'm taking this decision really seriously. So I've had some concerns. I reached out to Brian because I felt like, it's a result of reading this American Planning Association document. There are lots of ways to protect homeowners surrounding commercial development. And I reached out to Brian to ask the question, are there ways that we could do this development so that rezoning that parcel, and whether it's 6 acres or 4 acres, I can only go what I'm told by the people we hired. Are there ways that we can rezone this property to make it a better outcome for the neighbors than leaving it R3? And I'll tell you that Brian and I have had several conversations and several discussions. I've looked at the site plans, and I'm happy to share them with anyone. In fact, I've reached out to some of the neighbors, and I hope we can do more of this, because I think what I am hoping that we can do, particularly in the public forum, but over the next month, as this process naturally, slowly takes place, should it go forward tonight, is really talk about what it's going to take to protect the neighbors, because that's why we're here. And it's not an issue of I do like this person or I don't like this person, or to me, it's all about the golden rule. We want to do unto others as we would have them do unto you. And if I were a neighbor, I would want my neighbors to protect me as much as possible from a development. And if I were a developer, I would want the town to take in good faith the fact that I have invested in their property and try to come up with some middle ground. So that's what Brian and I are doing. We haven't called for a vote yet, but I'll go ahead and tell you where I am feeling. Brian and I, in our conversations, have talked about several ways to protect the homeowners, and it's several of the same issues that Jan brought up in her letter. It's lighting, it's buffers, it's how to do vegetation better, it's how trucks are parked and where they're parked. And as he and I have gone back and forth, both of us have lamented sort of that when we're screaming at each other and yelling and there's all this vitriol, it's hard to make progress on doing good decisions. And so what I ask him is, if I am going to support this phase one of this vote tonight, I need to know what you're going to do to make this better to the homeowners. And I need you to help me reach out to the homeowners to see what their concerns are and see if we can make it work. And then I want to, and this is going a little bit behind Sam. I hope I'm not getting things too out of order here. I would like to have a site plan that has had input from the neighbors by the next regular meeting, so that we can all see what we're getting into. I think that's important. And I know from a planning process that we don't need to have the site plan that early, but I have told Brian I need to see the site plan. And I think that the neighbors and many of all of us on the council and mayors also need to see the site plan, because in the end, that's what it's about. It's about having a product that we can all be proud of. And I've frankly been impressed with my conversations with Brian. He's made some commitments to me. I want to see more. I want to see those commitments on paper. And I know lots of other people want to see those on paper as well. But we kept that conversation going about how is there something tangible that he can bring to this meeting tonight to help me understand that he's serious enough that we can move forward talking about it some more. And so Brian's unmuted, but I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about what he has agreed to that I'm pretty proud of as a first step. And I want to say before I go any further, this is not me saying I'm ready to build the truck stop because Brian said this. This is me saying Brian has been a trustworthy partner thus far in this in my experience. And I'm willing to move forward tonight based on what he's committed to tonight. And I would like to see him commit to more, hopefully in conversation with the neighbors, so that in next month's regular meeting, we've got something we can all be proud of. So what Brian and I have talked about is using dark sky initiative compliant lighting for the entire development. If you're not familiar with the Dark Sky Initiative, it's an international organization that's interested in reducing light pollution. So that's not just light pollution that pollutes our neighbors and that shines lights on adjacent residential. It does that. But it also makes sure that all the lighting in the development goes down so that we can see the stars. And if we believe that Monteagle has a future with outdoor recreation and tourism, we don't want to be polluting the sky with a bunch of light pollution. And so Brian has committed that if this goes forward, this will be night sky compliant. That's a good first step for me. That's a bit of evidence on my part that he's willing to play ball with the neighbors and with the town. Brian, you're muted. Do you want to say anything more about it?
No, well, I'm so glad that you kind of phrased it the way you did and introduced our conversations the way that you did. I think that is a perfect kind of way to describe our state of mind in working through this process. We want to be good partners to the community. We want to be good partners and neighbors to the city of Monteagle and all of our neighbors. I think through all of this, a lot of the vitriol, as you said, I think we lose sight of, the spirit of how we want to interact with each other. And I have said over and over again that I find most of the neighbors to be very nice people, and we want to build a state-of-the-art place that everyone is proud of in the community. Certainly, this piece of property is going to look amazing, and we want it to be amazing for the neighborhood as well. Someone said something about the TA and Petro, and have you looked at their reputation? They have an impeccable reputation in this industry. They're the third largest, truck travel plaza company in America. If you look at the operations that have been built recently in Columbia, South Carolina, Hillsborough, Texas, Wilmington, Illinois, and even here in Caryville, Tennessee, you will find that they are beautiful facilities, well maintained, well operated, and are pillars in the community, which is what we strive to be. We want this development to be transformational and an amazing, uplifting place for everybody in the community to be proud of. And so much, and I don't want this to be controversial, but so much of the negativity of some people that are in opposition, I think, drowns out so much of the positive and so many of the supportive comments that we get all the time. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Thank you for dealing with everything that you've dealt with for so long. It's been 8 months since it was first recommended for approval by a state planner, and yet we're still having these conversations. But
I need to cut you off, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to turn it over to other comments, but I just want to reply. So this is not me saying I'm ready to move forward and approve the truck stop. This is me saying, this is me asking for us to begin a process. And before this truck stop is approved, or if the rezoning is approved, it's going to be approved. From my perspective, I'm not going to approve it until after we have a site plan that addresses the needs of the community, after we have a water impact study that addresses the need and ensures that we have capacity and a way to do it, and after we have a road study that ensures that we have the roads and traffic to do with this. And we haven't even talked about the actual vote yet. Somebody in the chat box said that they would like to speak who had not spoken. There's so many chats in there. Can you raise your hand, please, whoever you are? You hadn't spoken. Yep. Oh, Casey Reed wants to speak again. And we've done that. So let me reset the timer. Sorry. And y'all caught me. Brian was talking before I could punch my buttons and reset. So I cut him off before his 3-minute time was up. But I think I started the timer late. So Casey, go ahead.
Am I here?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not seeing myself. Start video. I'm not able to start video. You can start your video because the host has stopped it. Can you start my video, Nate? Can you hear me?
Oh no. Every time I try to, I hit the...
It says the host has asked you to start your video. I did. And it's...
There you are.
Okay, there I am. Thank you so much. In my feeling, I think we need to go back a little bit on all of this to the beginning. And I have a question to the Planning Commission, to the council. Has everyone on this committee seen and studied the financial statements of RBT? Have you studied the financial statements of their investors? Have you studied what TOA, what support they will give? And I appreciate Mr. Graber, being the cheerleader for TOA. But the fact is, according to my research and friends of mine in the market in New York City, it's not, again, it's 2.5 out of 5 stars. That's not a very good rating. From what I'm told with brokers in New York, that TOA will sell you the franchise, they'll sell you the gas, but they don't come in. If you've got a spill or you've got problems, they're gone. They're gone to the next franchisee to sell that. So the question here is this group strong enough to hold on if something goes wrong? Or are we going to have a 22-acre site of asphalt sitting there empty if they don't make it? That's something to consider. It happens all the time. So the financial strength, have y'all seen it? Have y'all looked at their financial statements?
No.
No? No, oh my gosh. You're getting ready to allow a business to come in this big with this much impact, and you don't know the fun. You're depending on what they're telling you. You have not researched their financial standing or their investors, where the money's coming from. Guys,
I'm sure you can share it with us, what you found.
that's your job, not my job. I mean, that is your job as city officials to find out, well, where the money's coming from. How strong is it? I mean, this is just common business sense. And it's shocking. It's shocking. That's all I'll say. It's shocking to me. We're dealing with reality here. We're not dealing with pie in the sky. We're not dealing with blue sky. We're dealing with reality when it comes to financials. And if they're not strong enough to hold on, then you're going to have a asphalt, building sitting there that's going to be an eyesore.
Thanks for your comment. I've got another comment here. I got to find a Pilcher. I told her she would be next.
Yeah, hey. Okay, thanks. I'm not Martha Ann, I'm David.
Okay, hang on. Let me start the timer here. There you go. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'm David Pilcher. I'm a CPA. I've got probably 11 years of experience working around the trucking industry, primarily in the dealership area. So I've got some idea about some of the environmental issues involved. What I'm seeing through this whole process, and I know it started with the previous council and previous mayor, that I think the citizens here, and we're newcomers, only been here a year and a half, they're seeing that they're just not getting enough upfront information. Coming in with a project like this right next to a already large truck stop, which is a darn sight better than the one that used to be there, by the way. I remember the old one. And we talk about Monteagle being this jewel on the mountain with all this beautiful nature and everything. And I think people are just trying to figure out how this all fits in with the vision Monteagle seems to have for itself, that it shows on its website. And if maybe we have to get through this first boat to get to the real information, but things like environmental impact study, traffic study, water impact study, seems like all of that should have been available to the Planning Commission at the very beginning of this process. And why, I mean, there's such a lack of transparency, to use a term, that a lot of people use today, but it seems like if you guys had come in with all of this information, Brian, from the very beginning and been totally upfront with everyone, this would have been a whole lot smoother project, I think. And I think also they need to tell the city what the real end game is of the total package you ultimately want to end up with. So the town has all of the information necessary, not just phase one, but what's the entire end game? So I'll throw that out there.
Hey Nate, just really quick, we had our head engineer Kenny Sadler attend the August meeting, and he answered questions for 3.5 hours, almost identical to the questions that have been raised tonight. And he was satisfactory to everyone on the planning committee at that time, and satisfactory to Garrett Haynes, who was the state planner on present at that meeting that night.
Yeah, and I do think some of this has to do with the change in administration. Why I had to get the plans from Brian directly. They should have been at the city hall, left from the last administration. We couldn't find any copies of it. So I do think there's some of that. There's some of the fact that this is drug on. So, it sounds like somebody has answered some of these questions in the past. So that's one of the things I'm hoping we can do in the next 30 days is bring some of this information to the top. And
Looks like he's frozen.
The information about what this development is going to look like. And that is why I'm asking them to do that over the next 30 days. And I'm asking people who are interested in seeing how this might be able to move forward and protect the neighbors and be an asset to the town to get involved. Mary Beth, you've spoken now at least twice, and I'm really concerned that we're already at 2.5 hours and we haven't even started. I've got a ding asking for us to stop the repeats.
Hey, Nate, Debbie just found this, these actual plans, and again, this is not confirming this is moving forward. Debbie found this in the back room because we found a lot of things that was done February the 4th, it looks like. That was, it was RBT Enterprises submitted these. Again, I've never seen them. It looks like, and also these were dated 8/17/20. So anyone that wants to look at them, I've never seen them till tonight. Debbie found them in the back room, just like we found Monteagle 2020. So those will be here if anybody wants to come and look at them during this time frame. I know it's not the ones you've talked to with Brian that you mentioned tonight, because you did say you had spoke with him per the berms and per the walls and per the additional things, the lighting, which Jan and Will had both mentioned. But anyone's welcome to look at these, but these were not accessible. There's several things that we're discovering in the back room. Actually, I think tomorrow you and Greg are going to be discovering more paperwork that's in an area, if I'm not mistaken. And thank you, Mr. Malif. So, but for the record, I do want to clarify something. As you mentioned, and Sam, you're here. So at any point in time, we have done and are doing our due diligence. Whenever, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, we do work with companies. I haven't went to everyone and done a background check. It is not our job to do it, but to protect this town, it is. And that's what we're doing in every one. There's been innuendos, there's been incorrect information, there's been untruths put out there. We'll deal with those later. I'm not even going to get involved with it. But the point is for us to do what's right for the town of Monteagle. To answer those questions, they're valid questions. None of us, and Mr. Pilcher, none of us like what happened here. We had a plan that was destroyed. We had a process that was destroyed. And we have done due diligence, and we will continue to do it. I could ask people, have you bought property and you were in the wrong zone? You had the wrong things done? We have 34 pieces of property we have got to look at. 3 are similar to this. So this is only one. Well, actually, when we get in with this discussion, we have another one. It's a different area, but the same thing. So we're doing our best collectively to fix them and not rush into anything. Whoever
May I speak?
Kate? Well, is that Joa?
This is Joanne Atwood. I don't know how to raise my hand on this.
Well, can you hold? Katie Goforth was ahead of you. Let me let Kate
of course.
go, and then you can be next.
All right.
Okay, let me get the timer started here.
Hey, Nate, my question is just really short. I was wondering, when you were speaking with Brian, did you pose the question about noise?
We did. We've talked a lot about noise, and again, what I'm basing it on is what I've read in the American Planning Association document, which is the wall is needed. Vegetation doesn't work. It's wall and space. So it's the further you get the noise away, the offending noise away, and the better your impermeable wall is, along with some associated vegetation to soften the noise as it impacts the wall. Those are the things that make the biggest impact. So the things that he and I are talking about, again, that I would love for other people to be involved in. And if you don't have my email, I'm going to put it in the chat box a little bit, and we can get together and we can talk about these things. And I don't know what the solution will be, but I find it a lot more productive to speak and to try to work through the issues than to just lob accusations back and forth. So one of the things we are talking about is they've already agreed to an 8-foot wall, but there's a lot of dirt that still needs to be moved. And the way their site plan is set up, the water is actually running to the west and south and being collected. So there's no need for the grading that I can see along what is, I guess, the north wall, this one that separates it from Trussell Road, to be at grade. So why don't we take some dirt and build that up so that the wall is physically higher so that it creates more separation? Again, I want to see that in writing and I want to see that in the plans, but Brian and I are conceptually talking about that. Yes, we're talking about noise.
So a follow-up, what was the distance? Because as I understand it, some of those homes will be like 80 feet from the property.
The current zoning ordinance calls for 100 feet, a buffer to the nearest parking space from the nearest residential lot line. So currently that's what they have. The former ordinance actually called for 100 feet from the district line, which would actually be an additional 20 feet. So we're these are stuff we're talking about. I'm certainly more up on zoning and ordinance than I have been, and probably will be even more up on it by the time I'm done. And they've already agreed. So the trucks will only be backed in along that residential side if it is to be built. So that'll put the trucks, those trucks are about 50, 60 feet long. So that puts the engine and the sound pointed in the other direction as well. But again, these are all conversations that are ongoing. I'm not telling you that this is the way it's going to be and I'm supporting it. I'm telling you that I want to have a conversation with somebody and I want to see if we can come to a solution.
And Nate, too, I don't want to get into the engineering of a truck engine at this juncture, but I have been told that the newer model trucks do not put out any noise at all while they're idling in park. So that's about as far as I want to go with that right now. But we can speak to more of that at a public hearing or at the next meeting too. Yeah,
and Brian, just. You've spoken twice. I asked Mary Beth not to speak after her second run. So we're going to move to a vote then, if you're okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that I'm trying to treat everybody fairly.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Are there, so yes, Joanne.
Yes.
Before you get started, so you don't take your time, I will answer the question in your chat box. According to Brian, there will be no big sign like you see at truck stops.
Well, that wasn't my question, but I appreciate that answer. I also appreciate the fact that the emotional component of this, which is running high for all of us, myself included as a homeowner directly across the street on Trussell, my property value as of 6 weeks ago has already dropped $30,000 in value. So if I wanted to move because I don't want to live across the street from a truck stop, I would lose money on this house. So emotions are high, and what I'm going to ask is a very simple question. You've heard some concerns from all of us about moving forward on voting because you don't have full information. I'm going to ask, would you please consider not voting tonight until you have all the information? And as neighbors, I certainly would feel better to have the transparency. There has not been transparency in this deal from the start. That's a huge concern, and that's a wedge that has been driven between those of us that don't want a truck stop in our front yard and the owners. It sounds like, Nate, you particularly have had conversations. I've met Brian to have ongoing conversations. Why would you push a vote tonight when we have so many concerns, and we're simply asking you to do your due diligence, get your reports, look at them, share them, and not move forward with the first vote because it's being pushed through too fast. 8 months, Brian, is not a long time in a development this size. It is not unreasonable to ask that you get that information and you share that information with us prior to starting this vote tonight. And that's all I have to say.
I can answer for myself. So when I've been asking Brian to do all these things, he has been pushing back and saying, hey, you're asking me to again go back and make concessions when I've already made concessions once. And not only that, just the act of revising the site plan is going to cost me $10,000. Was the number he gave me. And so what he asked me is, how do I have any sort of inkling that this is going to move forward to encourage you to invest the money in doing some of the things and drawing some of the things you have been asking for? And
well, it's already cost me $30,000, and the project isn't started yet. So $10,000, $30,000, it's costing all of us. Money is costing us emotional input. There is a cost to doing this, and his cost of doing business shouldn't outweigh my cost of a loss of already $30,000. It doesn't make sense. It's not, it isn't unreasonable for us, you particularly as the council, to have that information, to look at that information and then move forward. That is simply a business procedure. And so again, I would ask you not to vote tonight, to get that information. He has costs for this project and he will continue to have costs. We're suffering the consequences of this project. Our considerations at the beginning, I never felt like there was any consideration for the property owners. That seems to be changing slightly. So could you not follow through and get that information? You've heard from several different people the specifics of that. Do your due diligence. You'll make us feel better and have more confidence, not only in the city council and the job that you're doing to protect us as citizens, but in Brian and his project. It's not a big deal to have that those requests met. And so please don't vote tonight.
And I apologize that I had not, I reached out to some of your neighbors and I had not gotten your number. I do want to reach out and talk more with you one-on-one. And I would encourage you, hopefully maybe we can even do that with Brian. There may be an opportunity. It may just be, I'm sure the public forum is going to be this and more, but I'd kind of hope that some of us could get together and see if we can address some of the concerns even before the public meeting. Because I think, it's going to come down to either RBT is going to be able to address the concerns and they're not. And there will be an opportunity next month to vote on that. I want to make sure we're having the conversation.
Hey, Nate, let me ask a question here. And I do understand it. And I'm not saying anybody, and I want to clarify this. I'm not saying the neighborhood didn't do due diligence. This, we all inherited, y'all did and we did, and we are trying to fix it regardless. And like I said, I'm just, forget about the social media, forget about who said what, we're not taking a side. But if RBT, which you've been the one that's been talking to Brian recently, and the neighbors would be willing to have a public meeting here, schedule it in a conference room, discuss the issues before the public hearing, and then be at that point to be able to address it again. That would give time. Why not have that meeting and do it 2 at a time? Wear your mask, now that things are changed. schedule it 5 at a time, but have the conference room if RBT is willing to meet with us plans to discuss it. So are they willing to do that? To have this?
Would they be willing to give us the information? Having those meetings would be great, but I'd like to have. I would like to have the meeting with substantive information in front of me, not conversations about goodwill, but specific documents that address the issues that you've listened to tonight from several different people. That's what would make sense. We're past the emotional issue. We're now down to the due diligence of how do you do this correctly, and to have a conversation to say, I like you, you like me. We really want everybody to be one big happy family, and we want to be good neighbors. That's great, but that's been done. Let's get down to the studies and look at that as a group and know what we're talking about and have those conversations. And I would be the first one there.
I agree.
Can I bring you a set of plans tomorrow?
Nate, but let me clarify this. If RBT are willing to do tonight, before we do anything, to have a public meeting like you've mentioned, with the documents, with the information, because this is all going to be presented. I mean, that's the reason we're trying to find out where we're at before we get to the end of this project. I mean, they're doing a traffic study. TDOT's doing that. There's a lot more. Sam brought it up that has to be done regardless. It's going to continue to be done. A lot of these things, Travis is now our engineer. He can be there to help review, and he's not anyone's. He's just been hired. Travis, can you be available for a meeting to answer both constituents and other questions if this meeting can be scheduled between now and, I don't have a calendar. Let me find my calendar. The March meeting. I mean, would everyone be willing to have with documents? You've already been the negotiator with part of this. Nate to be there. Any of the council can be there. We haven't seen it, to see this stuff collectively, because, and then we could move. We would know where we're at to move forward with anything else. This is just one of 3 meetings at least. So, Miss Joanne, would that work? You're the one that's asked for it. If Nate's there, they're willing to bring documentation. And then if we would, and we can schedule, Sam, can we not schedule a meeting tonight, a special meeting to address this way, an open forum? Like
Sam is muted.
Can somebody unmute Sam? Can you unmute yourself?
You can.
Nate, you've sort of presented it without paperwork. RBT and the neighborhoods, are y'all willing to meet before this meeting, and with documentation here at Town Hall?
I just want to make sure I understand. You're saying this is in addition to, this is prior to, this is tabling this vote tonight and
I'm saying
voting in a special meeting?
I'm saying you deal with one vote tonight. That we deal with one vote tonight, which is on here, because we've still got Rogers to do and a lot more that we've got to address in this meeting. But then you have this meeting before anything else happens, towards the end of the month. In addition to, with documentation, with all the stuff that you said that's been presented, we'll have our engineer there. All these things can be addressed. I cannot answer them. Some of the business things I can answer. Now, I haven't went through your portfolio, or I haven't went through Sam's, or I haven't went through Casey's, and I haven't went through RBT's. No, I really don't know that I could do that. Sam, that might be a little, it might be a lawsuit pending the town if the mayor started going through everybody's background and their financial investment to see if I don't think that.
That's just something that's not typically done. I respectfully disagree with the lady who brought that up, but that's not a deep dive that is done in this kind of scenario.
So I'm saying, in addition to schedule that meeting, if everybody's here tonight, and that we can do that in addition to anything else, and we will have more information then and at the end, toward the end of the month, and we're still having a public hearing and another meeting. Are people agreeable to do this?
Most everybody is muted. So probably the simplest thing is if you're willing to be a part of that meeting, you just stick it in the chat box and we can get a sense, because I'm certainly willing and I would like to. And like I said, I've reached out to a couple of the neighbors, and I apologize, I haven't reached out to everyone.
That's Brian, if he's willing, and RBT if they're willing.
Yeah, I mean, and we did it in August, and we'd be happy to do it again. And I just don't want to sound like a broken record, but we did have Kenny Sadler answer 3.5 hours of questions in August.
I'm sorry, Brian, but we wouldn't hear in August. I'm not trying to make excuses.
No, I know, but I maybe Joanne, I met her, and she is a wonderful lady, a sweet lady. So I'm not trying to, maybe she just wasn't at that meeting, and that's fine. But I just don't want it to be characterized that we've just kind of slammed this through, because that's not the case at all.
Sam, if from what I'm seeing, Nate, if you're seeing anything different, council, if you're seeing anything different, let me know. Sam, can we schedule that meeting tonight here, or do we need to still post it 15 days? I don't know. What's the protocol on this? Because we don't.
Well, I mean, you've got to give adequate public notice for a public meeting, and it's my rule of thumb to do that you need to at least do it 7 days. Okay. So maybe calculate 10 days out or 15 days out, whatever is suitable to you, however long it takes. It'll take Mr. Graver to get his information together that Nate wants to share with the public, and figure it out. And maybe y'all can put your heads together and figure it out. And then the mayor, either the council itself can call a special call meeting, or the mayor can, but then we'll have to advertise that it is a special called meeting for further discussion of the development.
I'm looking at a calendar right now. I see Mary Beth has her hand raised. Nate, do you want to see what she's asking? And then, because we have, I mean, we're not trying to cut anybody off. We're just trying to see what we can do here.
You're getting close to your lawyer's bedtime.
Well,
because we're in the Eastern time zone.
Sorry.
Yes, I would like to answer the question that you put to the public about meeting with the developers to talk about how they can build a better truck stop. And my answer to that is we are not there yet. You have not even done the studies. You have not voted on the zoning. What you're telling us is that you've already made up your mind. And it's time for us to talk about site plans. We have not done the groundwork necessary to determine if this is a safe development for the community, and you want us to sit down and talk about a wall. A wall does not fix the problem, and we are not there yet. So the answer for this homeowner is absolutely not. We're not ready to talk about that yet. We haven't got to the point that it's even approved. So what you're telling us is that you've already made up your mind and already are going to vote for it. And we just might as well get used to it and figure out what kind of wall we're going to put up. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the time for this.
No, Mary Beth, I'm saying I want the details before we even approve the rezoning, which is well before the site plan would be approved. So I'm asking for the due diligence ahead of time. And I hope that's clear. And, you know, I think Sam was very clear that they don't need to do a site plan now. But what I'm saying is they need to do a site plan for me, because I've got to vote on this rezoning. And if I'm not comfortable with the rezoning, I'm not gonna approve it. And that's why I'm asking them to work early. And I think everybody on the council is in agreement. We all want this, if it's going to go through, to work for the town. And in order to do that, we are insisting that we meet with the landowners and the potential developer and see if there is common ground before we even vote on the rezoning.
On the completion of it. And that's being fair to everyone. And you know, here's the thing, is regardless of what's put out there, what's said, which will be addressed at another meeting, a lot of truths will be, because the documentation is there. We are doing what's right here and trying to take care of the neighbors. One vote does not pass the rezoning.
Right.
That's the reason we're saying schedule a special meeting, and I'm looking at March the 15th, and the majority of the people in council, look at the people that have spoke. The majority of the people said they would attend. Nate, you've talked to Brian. I think Brian, and correct me, I haven't seen Brian's post, but said they would attend. So I'm going to leave it to you all, if y'all want to do this, to have this meeting on the 15th of March. But Sam, when are we at a point that we continue? We're you know, you said
This has been citizens comment. You've had close to 3 hours of citizens comments, and you got other business to attend to, Mayor. I think you can't be criticized for not letting the public speak on this.
Oh, we can't be criticized, but that's okay. I mean, I'm just, you know, it is.
The only lack of fairness is Dee Dee has her hands raised and we've only allowed her to talk once. So can we,
yeah, let's do it.
Give her 3 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Dee Dee.
I just want to say, as I've said before, I'm very supportive of this town and all of you, and very close to the neighbors, close to many of you sitting here on this. And I think it would be very wise for someone to move to delay this vote. If you're going to have the public meeting, give another couple of weeks and let everybody have their say. Everybody do their due diligence, please.
There's a lady, Bethany Frank, said she has not been allowed to speak. Let's give her 3 minutes.
Let's find where she is here. Cancel.
It's she had something in the chat box.
Yeah, that means I gotta find her to, unless Iva Michelle or somebody else can unmute her.
I can't right now. I'm not controlling it. So
Frank, where is she?
I don't know. Let me go.
Right in the middle of the second page on my.
Okay, I found it. I'm asking her to unmute. Ms. Frank, you're going to have to unmute yourself. I've given you permission. Are you there?
No, she's not unmuted, or I think it's on her behalf. She's going to have to unmute herself in her video.
So your mute is in the lower left-hand corner. I'm not sure what to do about this.
Can she chat? Does she had keyed in in the chat box? Can she key in something? Tammy wants to speak. Let her speak while Mrs. Tabby Graber's there. So let her speak, Nate. She hasn't spoken.
Okay, she is unmuted. Let me start the timer. Go ahead.
Her video's not on.
Go ahead, Tammy. Tammy is unmuted. Bethany.
Tammy, yeah, Tammy should be up. What's going on?
Yeah, there she is.
There.
She must be having some sort of volume issue. She's unmuted, but I still can't hear anything.
We can see you, Tammy, but we can't hear you. It's not coming through.
Well, did Miss Frank figure her technical issues out? No, she's still muted.
Can't hear Tammy. Can Tammy do it on bronze? Could.
I think we're all getting Zoom fatigue.
Mhm.
Now I've lost Bethany Frank again to try to unmute her. Something happens if you mess up trying to unmute yourself. You have to be given permission to unmute yourself again. So I'm just trying to make sure I got her. Holding down spacebar to speak. I've never tried that one. Y'all seeing that in the chat box?
No.
So we seem to have lost Bethany Frank altogether, or else I just can't see, or both. Tammy, so sometimes I have found that if you go to audio settings and it says use computer audio, sometimes you have to click that button, and that helps you not only hear but also speak. Sam, while we're waiting on them, I had a question from one of the homeowners saying that a big public meeting is they would rather have a small one-on-one just with the developer. And is that even legal for the city council and mayor to be there, or would we have to not be there if it were something small and informal?
You do not have to be there. If you are there, you don't necessarily have to, as long as you don't talk amongst yourselves on this project or any other town business. You can be there and just listen. You know, that's the difference. I mean, if you intend to actively participate like you have tonight, then you need to, you know, to go through the strictures of the Open Meetings Act. But if you're going to just, if the developer is going to make himself available along with the information that people have asked for, and you just provide the location and you all show up and listen, but don't talk amongst yourselves and don't talk to any of the citizens or anything, just listen, then you're okay.
Okay.
Nate, let's do this according to what's been done tonight. With Tammy still trying to talk, and then Mrs. Bethany is, I think. But if we're going to do this, we need to have it recorded, and we need to have that we made it available to the public.
Right.
We need to have it here with the engineer. Now you can meet with whomever you want to in your own time. You know what I'm saying? We're not dictating things here. But if we're going to do it to this format, and we're asking these people to come together, that way it's known as a public meeting, and we will have an engineer here. We can have John here. We can have whoever needs to be here to help answer the questions on the behalf that may come up. And we can have Sam here for that one if he's available. If he's not, you know, then for us, for our behalf, till we get this thing resolved. But I'm saying if we do that, we still got a lot to do. I don't know what to do about these two folks that want to speak. Can we go ahead? I mean,
you can absolutely go ahead, and then if they get unmuted, then you can hear their comments.
So we're not ignoring them, but it's almost 9 o'clock, and I'm not trying to speed up. I mean, you know, it's just what would be the will of the council? Do you want to close the comments and address this at this point, or do you want to? What do you want to do? I'm going to do a roll call here. But I need a motion first. I need a motion. Are you ready to end the public comments? But the two that want to speak, if we can get them unmuted.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get them unmuted as we go along, let them speak, but I mean, if not, then I forgot what the motion was.
Well, you don't even need a motion. Your time of public comment is ended. There's nobody who's made public comments, and several people have made it more than once. So you just move on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, the next item on the agenda would be the reading of the ordinance of 0521 RBT, which would be, let's find it. Folks, I'm getting to it. That is, hey, Sam, do you have that ordinance in front of you?
I do not. You just need to read the caption of it, Mayor.
Okay. Ordinance number 05-21, an ordinance to amend the zoning map for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee to rezone a portion of a parcel 002.07 Marion County Tax Records map 022K, Group C from R3 High Density Residential District to C3 Interchange Commercial District. So, council, you have the ordinance. Do I hear a motion or not to proceed? Or it's now in your hands.
I make a motion that we delay a vote on this ordinance until after we've had public hearing on March 15th.
Okay. We have a motion.
So just so I'm clear, so we're clear and the record's clear, the public hearing will be held, still be held at the meeting in March. But you will have the second reading in April then, or at a special call meeting after that. Jessica, is that what you mean?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We're postponing, you're saying, the reading of this till after we schedule, if we schedule a meeting on March the 15th for the neighbors, the residents, the owners, our engineers, and everyone to be here at that meeting at Town Hall.
And we think, based on the directive of the governor at that time, that that's liable to be a public meeting.
Well, I mean, you can, the governor supposedly is going to extend his order allowing electronic meetings. And I guess the question is, what's allowed in Marion County?
That's based upon, according to Mayor Jackson, that's based, or it was based upon how that we wanted to do them. We had an issue because it was 10 or more in a room, which we could probably control the number, that people were saying they did not want to stand out the hall. They felt degraded because they were doing that. So that's the reason we went to this format, because if so many were here at the meeting. So we could probably schedule a time frame saying from 5 o'clock to 7, that people can be here to discuss the issues and have the information here if the owners and the neighborhood and we are agreeable to schedule this meeting. And it would be here at Town Hall. And if it's 10 people, it'd only be 10 people in that room at a time. We just have to cycle people in and out. That's all I know to do, Sam. What would you recommend?
Well, again, as long as the council is not meeting as the council, and as long as you are not talking amongst yourselves, and it's treated as an opportunity for Mr. Graber to have his engineer there and explain to people what, the answers to some of the questions you've had tonight, then you don't need to, and the motion was not to table. Somebody just said that. She just moved to postpone it. Is that correct, Jessica?
That's correct.
So we don't have to have a formal motion to bring it off the table next time. But as long as you don't have to, you're not talking amongst yourself, then, you can do whatever you want to do.
But if we're all going to be there, what I'm saying, what do we need to do to make sure it's a legal meeting? That we're not breaking any sunshine law if we didn't have you there.
Well, and that's what I just said.
Okay.
As long as you don't talk amongst yourselves and there's no discussion amongst yourselves deliberating or discussing the pros or cons of this development or anything else, then you don't really have to follow the sunshine law. If there is a threat of one or two of you getting together and saying that, well, I think this is great, or I hate this, or something like that, then you had better do it.
So,
Okay. What was the motion to table it till the?
To postpone
it until.
I'll second that.
But we have to schedule the March, you want to schedule the March 15 meeting?
Yes.
Jessica, with the neighbors and the owners and our engineer in the conference room, and we'll follow the governor's order according to who can be in there.
Yeah, just to make sure Sam's on board, the part of the governor's order that Maryland is concerned about, and I guess I am as well, is that part that limited public meetings to a gathering of no more than 10 people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know where they are. There's going to be a new order in the next couple of days.
I still think there'll be people that are uncomfortable about getting together in a large group, and it would be nice to have the Zoom option for folks that don't want to take a chance on missing the meeting or being in a tight room.
We'll record it. We'll go back to our recordings, Jessica, and we'll use the microphones, which we've got set up. It'll be done, we'll have it available on FaceTime. That's all I know to do is to go from there.
Well, you figure
Well,
time you put all this.
I think you should advertise it.
That gives us time to advertise it.
I think you should advertise it, but whether or not somebody's there to keep minutes and whether or not you have a sunshine roster or anything like that, just depends on y'all making sure you don't talk amongst yourselves.
Well, it sounds sure like it's the public meeting. There's no order of operations to a rezoning, is there?
No.
I mean, can we just do the public meeting?
You have to have a formal public hearing. And I don't know whether Debbie has advertised it for this yet or not.
It's not. It can't happen. That's the reason it was. If it goes forward, that'll have to have the time frame, like you said, Sam, and that'll be later. So the public hearing has not been.
We need to have the public hearing at the end of March, like we originally planned.
If we have it, but this is going to be a public meeting to have those questions that you brought up, Nate, and you said Bron's talked about, and have the neighbors there to where they can discuss it in a format, but we will record it and we will do it based on live, and we will, for those that want to send in information, we're not going to stop that. That's all. That's the best we can do. We're covering every base we can.
And I think just to be safe, let's go ahead and advertise it and plan on it being a special call meeting. Because just in case you don't want to have a technical defect in this process.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to postpone this and to schedule a special meeting for March the 15th at Town Hall at 5 o'clock, correct?
Let's do the postponement first. What you're doing is postponing consideration of this item on the first reading to March 20, whatever the 28th? 29th. And that's your motion, Jessica, right?
To postpone the vote until after the special meeting, which would be, the next council meeting is the 29th of March.
Well, are you postponing it till after the 29th, or are you postponing it to the 29th?
To the 29th.
Okay, and Alvin, that's your second,
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what's before you right now, and you need a roll call vote, Mayor.
Okay, I just got a message though. Mayor Jackson just sent me a message, so I'm gonna let y'all know this just came in. He said he has been watching our meeting, and he said the limit to 10 in a public space has been lifted. He says they had a commission meeting tonight, but they were not aware of it. But with their commissioners, there were probably around 10 there. The governor is going to extend 71, but to allow the ability that you can have a public meeting. He said this was 20 and with electronics. So we'll have the public meeting, but we will be recording it so people will have the access. Okay. So I'm reading this and trying to, so the motion has been made and the second, correct?
Correct.
And this is for postponing
postponing the first reading to the meeting on the 29th of March.
Okay, so Any discussion? Council, roll call vote. Alvin,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
Doreen. Doreen,
Yes.
Jessica. Jessica,
Yes.
myself, yes. Okay, now, and this is on this issue because we're not done with it yet. Do we have a motion? And help me here, Sam, so we're legal.
Need a motion for a special call meeting on March 15th. At what time? 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock, and we'll go to 7. I mean, because we don't want to keep you and everybody out that late, you know what I'm saying? But we'll have the engineers, we'll schedule it to people that can answer those questions, can be here, both on the behalf of the town, the company, whoever can be here, and with written documents that you have discussed with Brian, Nate.
Well, just to let you know that I've got a conflict on March 15th if you expect me to be there. But,
Well,
or,
we'll work
or
it
me-
out with you. If we
Yeah.
have to do something else, if I
Yeah.
need you, we'll have you on speed dial. Okay.
that'll be fine. I've got another meeting with one of my other municipalities that night, but starting at 5 your time, but they're usually over before 6.
Well, so we'll have you accessible if we need you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Council, do we have a motion? What do you want to do?
I'll make the motion.
You want to repeat that motion?
No.
I'm tired. Sam, will you repeat the motion for him?
Special call meeting for March 15th at 5 PM to extend till 7 PM.
Yes. I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call vote. Alvin,
Yes.
Doreen,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
myself, yes. Deb, you've got that for special call meeting? They'll get you the information. Okay, now let's move to the first reading of ordinance 0621 Phipps property. Let me find the ordinance, folks. All right, I had him out. Hang on. I had to reshuffle him. That was 0621. Okay, ordinance number 06-21, an ordinance to amend the zoning map for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee to rezone partial 030.01 Grundy County map 017 from R1 low density residential district to C2 highway commercial district.
And Mayor, this is a fix of one of those notice issues that we had previously discussed.
Yes, that there wasn't enough notice given for this.
This is the first reading or second reading?
First reading. That's the first reading.
Need a motion?
Need a motion, sir.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Doreen,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
myself, yes. Okay. All right, third. The first reading of the ordinance of the 07-21 election. I'll clarify this. What this would be is to change the tenure back to the next election cycle. Instead of it being 2 years for each person, the mayor and 2 of the highest vote getters would be 4 years. 2 of the council people would be on a 2-year term. There would be an election. Then on that 4th year, the mayor and the other 2 council persons would, of course, run again. So it keeps continuity in the board. We did have this. Actually, there was one cycle we did with this. The previous administration did a cycle of 4 years and did the rotation. And so what happened was that they changed it back. So we have to go through an ordinance. It would not affect us. It would affect the next election cycle. for clarification. So in the ordinance is 07-21, an ordinance to change the town of Monteagle's tenure of the office to a staggered 4-year term. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 0721.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote. Okay. Nate,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Lorraine, myself, yes. Okay, that's done. The next thing would be, and I'm going to, you've got three website designer quotes, period. That's what we've got in our packet. One is for Roman Stone, which we've had for several months. And now this is not maintenance, this is getting our website updated. It's getting information on there. It's providing it to where we're up to date. It's also redesigning. We have one from Dale Woofin, who has done the Cornbread Festival. And we have one from GoDaddy. GoDaddy's was like $18.97. Hold on a second. I'm gonna tell you exactly what they were. I found those notes. GoDaddy was $18.57. Roman Stones was $4,700. Dale Woofin was $1,757.
And I just put a fourth one up on a screen share. He's got, they're all a little bit different, so that's why I put them up.
Well, here's something that I would like the council, this is $1,250. Now, we would stay with Ben Lomond's hosting because they do not charge us. And if people do not realize it, that website was created probably, Alvin, what you say, 9 years ago, something like that? Because we created the first one.
Yeah.
And there's only been information added. So I know that it's been asked for a presentation, what I would like to do. And we're going with 4 web designers. We have their information. I would like to do a Zoom meeting. And the best price for the best web designer, they can have it turned around in the best time, not rushing anything, but we need to get this information out there to the public because the website is very important. We've all stressed, not only social media and other things. So not to exceed $2,000, which automatically takes Mr. Stone out for his, but that still gives us a Zoom presentation that can be viewed. Somebody saying, one of y'all saying something?
No.
Presentation from Aaron Wells. We can look at the GoDaddy and see what they can provide us, and Mr. Woofin. Mr. Woofin, I did see his work, and he does the National Cornbread Festival. Some of his websites are pretty outstanding. I don't know the gentleman, but I know he works, he's in Marion County. We do have Mr. Wells area. And GoDaddy's been doing it for years. So what I would like to do is to say the bidding threshold for the town. The bidding threshold for the town is $5,000, but we just prefer to handle it this way so we know what we're doing. But that we're going to $2,000 for the web design and the process, and that way we can get this started. Because minimum date that we got, and we don't have one from a couple of them, is 6 weeks out to be able to get it out there. And people want the information, so.
I like to be the budget hawk, but I'd like to actually suggest we move that up to 25 or 2,800. And the reason is because the bids are so variable, we don't exactly know what we're going to get. And as we talk to them more, I think things are going to change. I think there are going to be some people that we like that aren't going to realize all the stuff we need. And I feel like it'd give us more flexibility.
Well, and that's fine. And they can Zoom us online and send them to us if we can have the amount approved and just can be, we can approve it. I think 4,500 is a little excess for that. So I think if we go 2,800.
If people feel comfortable with that.
Very much.
Okay, so can we have a motion not to exceed 2,800 to pick a web designer? And this is a web designer for the town of Monteagle. This is what I'm asking for per the council, but not to exceed that. So that can be determined from the Zoom meeting. And then from that point, they'll start working on it. And hopefully, we know it's going to be 6 weeks, but we can have something that people can YouTube, they can find the website, they can find social media, they can find the addendums, you know, the information's there for them. So, do we have a motion? Yes.
I'll make the motion up to authorizing up to $2,800 to hire a web designer to put together a new town website.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Doreen, roll call vote. I'm sorry. I'm a little
Yes.
tired.
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
council, do y'all have anything else? I think our agenda's been covered, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to clarify that the ball field, we've already discussed that program. Do y'all have anything else tonight?
Was there anything else on Sarah Ambrose?
Yeah, so she's on my list. I followed up with her and told her that we had talked about it, but that we probably wouldn't have a resolution at this meeting. I asked her if she was getting a liquor license, and she said that she was. And so per Maryland's idea that we stick with the state regulations, she'll go through that liquor license process. And so we'll know that she's gotten that, and that will help us move forward. In the meantime, I think we got to get, I think I promised to get with Debbie and sort of see what the ordinances are so we can talk about it some more.
MTS is reviewing that too, Nate.
Oh, cool. But
I
I'd
mean,
rather MTS do it.
well, point of contact, and I'm just going to clarify this. They do not give you legal opinions. They can make a recommendation, but not a legal opinion. That's the reason we have attorneys, but they do have laws in which that they will, you know, provide us the law for the state of Tennessee. So we use them because they're free free resource. So they're looking at that as well.
And I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
We had talked about doing the budget hearing on the 11th of next month. Now we're going to have a public hearing. Do we need to have a budget meeting?
We do need to have a budget meeting.
So, oh yeah, you're right. We sure did.
Say that again. Say that first part again.
I don't even remember what I said. I've been on here a long time.
You're right.
Could we start the budget meetings on March the 8th, that Monday?
Let me check the calendar. I suppose we can. I don't see a reason why we couldn't. If Deb's got to check with the CPA and she'll get dates for us, and then we can see if we can do that.
Can it not be 3 hours and 20 minutes long?
We're trying.
All right, I'm good with the 8th. I think. Yes, I'm good with the 8th.
The 8th right now is good with us if it's good with CPA. So we can schedule a budget meeting.
What we do have time enough to announce it. Because that's going to be.
Do what, Deb? She said a budget meeting is not usually a public meeting. Is it? What about you, Sam? You're here. The budget meetings, are they public? Did Sam leave us?
No, he's there. Oh, asked to unmute. Sorry.
He's getting ready to go to bed. Sam, are budget meetings public meetings?
Yes. Any meeting that you have where you discuss public business is a public meeting.
Would be actually it'd be a budget workshop. So we can just announce the workshop. So
you need to advertise it, to keep very rudimentary minutes, everything. You have to comply with the sunshine law every time you guys meet.
So let's just see what date it is and we'll schedule it out with the CPA to comply with the sunshine law.
Yeah, I mean, alternately, we could do a 3.5 hour workshop meeting on the 22nd.
Yeah, let's try not to. Come on. But anyhow, let's just
first.
Let's see what the CPA can do, and then we can schedule it according to sunshine law. Okay? Does that work with y'all? Because we need them here to answer the questions.
Works for me.
Okay, we will have a calendar event that we discussed. That'll be sent to you all. I know we've already discussed, and also sending out to the community and to people that said they want to be involved if they want to donate. That way we're not nickel and diming them to death from the ball program down to Christmas. But that's being prepared. So does anyone have anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Roll call.
Roll call. Wait, we have a second. We need a second. Did you?
Second.
Okay. Doreen.
Yes.
Nate.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Alvin.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you.
Hi, y'all.